Yo Atlas speaking and welcome to part 3 of What If I Was Reincarnated in the World of Naruto as Naruto's twin sister. Let the tale begin. Chapter 41, Araka Yumino. While all of that was happening, the real Yuna was sitting at the dinner table together with Naruto and Hinata. While Yuna was happily eating her food, Naruto and Hinata would occasionally give her a glance. They felt that something was different about Yuna but didn't know what exactly it was. She seemed to be glowing with a contented look on her face. Naruto was the first to talk about it. Ne-san. Did something good happen? Hee, indeed. Hearing Yuna's giggle, Naruto felt a little terrified and decided not to ask for any details. There was no need to traumatize himself, after all. Although it is true that Yuna really enjoyed piling up curse after curse on Danzo, that wasn't the most significant part. At the start of the conversation, Yuna had one of her chains stealthily exit her shirt under the table and approach Danzo. Every time Danzo would lose control over himself, Yuna would sneak some seals on Danzo with her chains. The end result? Yuna could now feel where Danzo was at any time. If she notices that he leaves the village for whatever reason, she can find him and get rid of him. The fall from grace part of her final speech was, naturally, a bluff. She couldn't care less whether Danzo was an elder of the village or not. The moment Yuna got a chance to get rid of Danzo without catching any flag for it, she would do so. She has already prepared some safety nets in case Danzo would target those close to her, as well. A few armbands that were stuffed to the brim with seals should do a pretty good job. After seeing Yuna's slightly insane smile, Naruto and Hinata shuddered and decided to call it a day. The next day when the trio arrived at school, they were met with a rather weird event. Araka was greeting them in front of the academy with a happy smile. "Oh, it's good to see you again. Good morning." Although Yuna didn't think Araka would change his attitude towards them overnight, she saw that he was genuine in his goodwill. She, naturally, wouldn't slap a smiling face, so she just smiled at him casually and greeted him back. "Good morning." Although Hinata and Naruto felt a little weird, they also greeted back obediently. "Good morning, Araka-sensei." Araka was actually taken aback by the rather normal greeting. He expected a more aggressive stance, especially from Yuna. Yuna, however, seemed to be in a good mood and not bothered in the slightest at what happened yesterday. What he didn't know was that Yuna had pretty much already forgotten what happened at the academy yesterday. For Araka, it may have been a significant event, but in Yuna's mind she was only acting so she could lure Danzo into a trap to bully, pressure him. Bully, putting pressure on Danzo was the main event. Everything else doesn't really matter. "You seem to be in a good mood, Yuna. Did something good happen?" Indeed. Nothing feels better than making a nasty fly, that has been bothering me for a long time, suffer. Although Yuna's words were rather vicious, she still had a happy and innocent smile on her face, forming a rather daring contrast. Araka was just about to ask more questions when he saw Naruto and Hinata frantically shake their heads in an attempt to stop him. Araka wasn't sure what this was all about but decided not to ask too many questions. That sounds rather ominous, but good for you I guess." The trio gave Araka another nod and then entered the academy. Araka was rather happy with the whole conversation. He thought it would be hard for Yuna to open up to him, but she seems to be completely fine and didn't mind speaking with him at all. Even during the lessons, the trio took part obediently and didn't raise a fuss at all. Araka would have ticked off the day as a success if it wasn't for one little occurrence after the end of the school day. As soon as he was a bit further away from the academy someone knocked him out and when he woke up, he was tied to a chair with Yuna, Naruto, and Hinata sitting in front of him. "Yo, Araka. I thought we could have a little chat, so I kidnapped you for a moment." Araka immediately snapped at her. "What do you mean with, kidnapped you for a moment? Release me right now. Are you insane?" "Well, first of all, yes. But that isn't really important right now. Second, please use your indoor voice. There is no need to scream. Third, no need to panic, I just want to make a few things clear. Was it really necessary to tie me up for that? Not really, but Naruto really wanted to train how to probably tie up a prisoner, so I gave him a shot at it. Araka immediately glared at Naruto, who only gave him a sheepish look in return. Well, Araka, how is it? How long would it take you to lose the knots? Araka frowned at the weirdness that is this whole situation, but he still gave it a try. A little flare of chakra here, a little nudge there, and coupled that with a few additional small movements, he quickly came to a conclusion. Pretty well done. Would probably take me around 30 minutes to get out of. After his judgment, Naruto made a gut pose, while Yuna gave a satisfied nod. Good job, Naruto, you worked hard. As promised, you can have one extra remendai. Naruto's eyes immediately sparkled with excitement. Yes. I did it. Remendai. Although Araka looked warmly at the interaction between the twins, he quickly realized that he was still tied to a chair. Well, since my assessment is done, you can untie me, can't you? Although Araka didn't believe for a second that he would be untied this casually, he still had to keep the conversation going so he can loosen the binding himself. His estimate of 30 minutes was naturally a lie. He would only need half that time to get free. Yuna's next sentence, however, truly surprised him. That's true, I guess. Yuna gave Naruto a casual nod, and the next moment Naruto's right hand blurred. A split second later, the ropes tying Araka to the chair were cut. Although Araka could see Naruto's movement, he still was incredibly surprised by it. Around mid or maybe even high-level genin speed? And what is with that accuracy? During throwing practice at the academy, he barely managed to pass 50 points. Seeing Araka's dumbfounded expression, Yuna could only chuckle. Hee, as you can see, we have quite a few secrets. You are someone that seems to hold no animosity against us. Coupled with the fact that you will be our teacher for a year, we decided to reveal a few things to you. Araka felt something was slightly weird after that proclamation. From what I can see, Naruto was clearly hiding his strength. Quite a lot of it. I can only assume that Hinata and you are doing the same. I have never heard anything about that, so I can only assume that no one knows about it. Why would you tell me then? Yuna nodded her head approvingly. Despite being a rather average shinobi when it comes to strength, Araka had quite the good head on his shoulders. Her purple eyes stared into Araka's, sending shivers down his spine. I'm telling you because I am a very good judge of character. Yuna's eyes shone with wisdom and experience, sending another shiver down Araka's body. I can see the care for your students inside your eyes. The care for the village and your loyalty to the Hokage. I only need a single sentence to make you keep our secret. The Hokage is aware that we are hiding our strength. Although Araka was still uncomfortable from being stared at by Yuna, hearing that the Hokage knew about it made him visibly relax. Yuna then proceeded to tell them their reason for hiding their strength. Well, some of their reasons. Hinata, because she doesn't want to be on the radar of her clan, and Naruto and Yuna, because they don't want the people that hate them to think that the demon twins are getting too powerful. The conversation went rather well, and after inviting Araka for dinner and having him constantly praise Yuna's cooking, they parted ways. I wasn't expecting that we would actually get a good teacher in our last academy year. I might even consider, to pretend, to be interested in the lessons at this point. Hinata chuckled a little at that sentence structure and then said her own opinion. Isn't it fine? Like this, our last year will be peaceful at least. Naruto gave a sagely nod and then brought in his own opinion. I think I will play some pranks on him. This immediately caused Yuna and Hinata to give him weird looks, which in return slightly flustered Naruto. Don't look at me like this. Doesn't he seem incredibly amusing to prank? He's got this whole, I am an incredibly serious teacher, vibe going, yet he seems to be a nice guy at the same time. I bet he would take a few harmless pranks with humor as well. Although Hinata was still giving him weird looks, Yuna nodded in understanding. Fine, but don't overdo it. No need to make someone agreeable our enemy after all. Don't worry, Nei-san, I know what I'm doing. I guess that's true. Sigh. What are you sighing for, Yuna? Is there still something wrong? Don't worry, Hinata, I just thought that it is a bit sad that my cake catapult seal array probably won't be seeing any action this year. You really decided to go with that name, didn't you? Of course. I find it rather fitting. Sure. Chapter 42, Yin-yang Balance. It has been a few months since the trio's last year at the academy started, and today was a rather big day for Naruto. He finally managed to coax Kurama's name out of him, and so, Yuna would lift his seal today. Yuna didn't really understand why she had to wait this long, but it seems that young Kurama and Naruto came to a weird agreement about that. At this point in time, Hinata had also met with Kurama, but their meeting was rather uneventful. Hinata held no grudge against Kurama, while Kurama has pretty much watched her grow up, so he doesn't mind her presence either. The trio was currently sitting cross-legged and had their fists bumped together between them. Moments later, they arrived at the cross-section of their mindscapes. Yuna still had her huge forest, covered with soft powder snow and huge glaciers as a backdrop. Naruto had created a huge sprawling beach covered in white sand and crystal clear, blue water. Yuna decided to not make any comments about the completely out of place, 10 stories tall building with Araka ramen written on it. Hinata had created a serene-looking forest with gentle streams of water flowing towards the center of it. In the center of her mindscape was a huge lake, and in the center of that lake was a small island with an even smaller building. An exact replica of their current flat. This, naturally, earned her quite a bit of teasing, but she insisted that this is the place that helps her calm down the best. Yuna didn't bother and directly walked towards the still-sealed Kurama with a smirk on her face. You do realize that you could have gotten free much earlier, right? I have my pride as well. I am not willing to support a random brat just because I'm friends with his sister. That's true, I guess. Hey! Who are you calling a brat, stupid fox? Gahaha, of course, it's you. Damn, Nae-san, get the cage open already, I'm going to kick his ass. Yes, whatever you say. Hinata, meanwhile, was greeting the other Kurama. Hello, Kurama-san. Good to see you again. Funnily enough, Kurama immediately gave Hinata his name when they first met. Hinata, Are you here to meet your in-laws? Hinata immediately blushed furiously before giving Kurama a glare. Kurama could only nod in approval. That is pretty intimidating for a little girl. Not bad at all. In the meantime, Naruto finished his quarrel with Kurama's young half, and Yuna was getting ready to lift the seal. Like the first time when she tried to remove the paper tag on her own seal, the chakra sealed inside it started to move and manifested into Minato Namikaze. This time, however, he didn't try to stop Yuna. He may not have the memories of his other sealed part, but he had much more time to observe what happened in the outside world and came to the conclusion that Yuna, very likely, had befriended the fox. Considering there was another Kyuubi in the background that was currently getting scolded by Hinata with an amused expression on his face, fortified that notion. Yuna didn't bother to waste any words. She immediately materialized the key for the seal and unsealed it, and as soon as the gate was opened, Kushina appeared with an awkward expression. She had sealed part of herself inside the seal, so she could help her children suppress the Kyuubi, but what was with the current situation? Naruto was certainly fighting the Kyuubi. He was climbing all over his body while trying to push bogies into his fur, while the Kyuubi was trying to get rid of him. The other part of Kurama that was here, as well, for some reason, seems to be currently losing a different kind of fight. He was currently receiving a tongue lashing from Hinata. While he found it rather amusing at the start, the more Hinata talked herself into a frenzy, the more strained his smile became. Seeing that the situation was completely out of control, Yuna heavily clapped her hands together to get everyone's attention. Okay, enough playing around. It is time for the main event, so everyone gather here. Although only Kurama knew what was about to happen next, everyone gathered anyway. However, when Kushina saw how close Naruto and Hinata were, she couldn't help but tease him a little. Oh my son sure has grown up well. This young and already has a girlfriend. To her surprise, however, Naruto only gave her a weird look. What are you saying, Mom? The one Hinata likes is an E.A.M. Without any warning, Hinata's fist smashed into Naruto's stomach and sent him crashing into the ground a few dozen meters away. Naruto, naturally, was surprised by that sudden attack. He stood up with anger in his eyes. Hey Hinata, what was th? When he met Hinata's eyes, however, he stopped talking. Hinata's image was currently overlapping with a much younger version of Yuna when she told him something that stuck to him for a long time now. Naruto, there are things you can say and things you can't say. Guess which case this was? When he remembered these words and realized what he was just about to say, his face paled. I messed up. He was just about to forfeit his life when his instinct kicked in, which had been honed by Yuna over the years. That's right, Nei-san always tells me to trust my instincts. Nei-san's teachings are always right, so it will work out somehow. Naruto immediately entrusted his body to his survival instincts. His angry face vanished and was replaced with a pout. He instinctively made his voice a bit more childish and then started talking again. Hinata, why did you hit me? I was about to say that we three love each other like family. Does that mean you don't think we are a family? At the end of that speech, his voice started to break, while tears were about to spill out of his eyes. Naruto could see Yuna give him a thumbs up in the background, but decided to ignore that for now. The pressure on Naruto immediately vanished and Hinata's demon-like smile changed into a face filled with concern. As expected of Nei-san's teachings. After that little quarrel was over, it was finally time for the main event. The two parts of Kurama sat cross-legged while bumping fists with each other. Yuna immediately jumped up and landed on the connection point of the two fists. Having the two halves just exchange chakra is an easy matter. The problem is making it a permanent solution. If they just exchanged their chakra to balance each other out, that balance would quickly tilt towards either yin or yang until the previous exchange is completely negated. This is, naturally, not what Yuna was after. Yuna sat down cross-legged, as well. She closed her eyes and clapped her hands together in front of her. She took a deep breath that caused a shock wave to go through her mindscape. Another breath, another shock wave. With every shock wave, her mindscape changed. It became colder and colder. The lakes froze over and were covered by snow. The trees turned into ice pillars and the glaciers grew more and more menacing. Yuna truly disliked entering this state of mind, but the normal her couldn't handle what she was about to do yet. Her eyes opened and the normal Yuna seemed to be gone. Her eyes were currently ice cold and filled with indifference, like an omnipotent god, looking at a bunch of mortals. Two chains, with snow-white chakra glowing on their tips, popped out of her back and started to move seemingly at random while leaving a trail of ice behind them. While Hinata had no idea what was going on, Naruto could at least understand that Yuna was currently drawing seals. Kushina and Minato, however, were completely gobsmacked by what they were currently looking at. They were not only experienced shinobi but could also be considered high-level seal masters, so they understood what Yuna was currently doing. To their eyes, the movement of the chains seemed absolutely perfect. A machine-like precision with no unnecessary movements. After a few minutes of creating seals, the sealing array was done. The whole thing started glowing and then it started to slowly rotate around the still unmoving Kuramas. Yuna, however, was far from done. As soon as the first seal started moving, she started creating a second one interwoven into the first. The moment she started, a third chain popped out of her back, however, there was no joy on Yuna's face. It was just as indifferent as it was previously. A few seconds later, she perfected the control over the third chain and controlled it to assist the previous two. After about 30 minutes of work, Yuna was finally done. A total of 9 three-dimensional sealing arrays were interwoven into each other. A masterpiece that only the very best of the Uzumaki clan could replicate, yet there was still no joy on Yuna's face. Her face was still indifferent as she activated the seals. Yin-yang balance. A short name, totally different from her usual naming sense. When the seal activated, the two Kuramas were pulled into each other. Their chakra mixed together and distorted into a huge yin-yang symbol. After forming, the symbol was cut in half perfectly in the middle so each half would have equal parts black and white. After they were cut in half, they reformed into smaller yin-yang symbols that, after a few moments, morphed into a fox's again. As soon as the two Kuramas reappeared, they said the same thing. Wow, that felt disgusting. They were just about to quarrel with each other when they noticed that Yuna was currently kneeling on the ground while holding her head. She looked like she was in extreme pain. Both of them widened their eyes in panic and approached her immediately. The other people also noticed that Yuna seemed to be in pain and approached, as well. Just when they were about to reach Yuna to find out what was wrong, she tilted her head back with despair-filled eyes. She couldn't take the pain anymore and started yelling. Lame. So, lame. What the hell is yin-yang balance? That sounds so lame. Everyone's movements stopped immediately when they heard that yell. Yuna, however, was far from done. Damn. I should have thought up a name beforehand. F***it, I will rename that seal right now. What about, Convergence of Heaven and Earth, Return to Origin Sealing Matrix? Oh yeah, that's it. That sounds fucking amazing. Hey, what do you guys think about the new name? Chapter 43, Graduation Exam. What's wrong? You don't like the name? Nay-san, that name is a little air. Of course, I like it. It sounds badass. An awkward silence descended on the group as they looked at the owner of that voice, Minato Namikaze. Minato's eyes shone with excitement after hearing the name Yuna came up with. When she used all those seals for the first time and gave the technique such a basic name, he was really disappointed. In his mind, an awesome technique naturally needs a badass name. You used ice to create all those seals, didn't you? How about putting that in the name, as well? How about, Convergence of Heaven and Earth, Return to Origin Ice Sealing Matrix? Yuna, immediately, became excited, as well. That's good. Really good. But now that I think about it, doesn't that feel really impersonal? What about, Uzumaki Clan's Convergence of Heaven and Earth Secret Technique, Return to Origin Ice Sealing Matrix? Minato couldn't help but facepalm after hearing this name. How could I forget about that? As expected of my daughter. When you create a badass technique, you obviously need to incorporate your name into it. How about you? While the duo was talking, the other people started to slowly distance themselves. After getting out of hearing range, the two parts of Kurama started talking with each other, since they still needed to figure out what exactly happened to them. When they have split apart, they didn't feel different at all, which probably was a side effect of being sealed for so long, but now that they were pretty much free, they easily noticed how different everything felt after getting their yin-yang balance back. Naruto, Hinata, and Kushina on the other hand simply started chatting about nothing and everything. This was another good chance for Naruto to learn more about his mother, so he would naturally take it. Like the first time, Minato was the first to disappear and Yuna returned to the rest of the group with a satisfied smile on her face. No one dared to ask what kind of name the two came up with. A while later, Kushina disappeared, as well and, yet again, Yuna could only smile wryly when Kushina said her last words. Live well, my children. Naruto was, naturally, crying pretty hard again. It took Hinata and Yuna a while to calm him down, but when they did, the two halves of Kurama had also finished their discussion, so it was time to leave their mindscape. It would take Naruto a while to use Kurama's chakra probably, but that was not something that couldn't be solved with a healthy dose of training, so Yuna didn't worry about it too much. A few months passed and it was finally time for the trio to finish the academy. The only noteworthy thing that happened in these months was that they got a new teacher that seemed to be exclusively responsible for their physical education. Yuna didn't bother to remember his name, but she was pretty sure it started with Mez. Truth be told, Yuna was rather fond of him. It is rare to find someone that sells himself as a big shot but is actually a comedian in disguise. The first time he entered the classroom, he actually displayed his pathetic amount of killing intent in an attempt to get the respect of the children in the class. Then, he proceeded to hold a speech at how pathetic it was, that the previous teacher couldn't even dodge something as huge as a cake being thrown at them, just to be hit by a cake straight in the face the moment he finished that sentence. He, naturally, got angry at that and started hurling curses at whoever was responsible for this just to be hit, yet again, when he said, "I dare you to try this again." Yuna almost wanted to stand up and applaud his performance. His facial reaction, his words, the way he moved, he was perfect. The perfect side character, funny enough to please the audience, but insignificant enough to barely be remembered. Yuna couldn't help but be slightly excited about finally becoming a genin. After all, becoming a genin meant that she would be considered an adult and that it would be much harder to mess with her from now on. The whole class was currently sitting inside the classroom and was waiting for the final test to start. The trio would, like always, answer barely enough questions to get a passing mark and then would perform the required jutsu to an acceptable degree. As soon as they were genin, they could finally drop this annoying act and show what they were actually capable of. Only a single test remained, which was to show off the mastery over the Bunshin no Jutsu. The first of the trio to be called for testing was Hinata, who passed the test easily. The next one to be called in was Naruto, who, surprisingly, failed the test. Yuna, however, could easily see through Naruto's sad facade. Oh? Is he plotting something? Naruto's and Yuna's eyes met for a split second and Yuna, immediately, had, at least, a basic understanding of what was going on. So, he really is plotting something, huh? I cannot help but feel proud of him for how far he has come. My memories might be a little off considering how often I get flooded with your degeneracy, but I'm pretty sure I remember that you said you didn't want to corrupt Naruto. Yuna decided to casually ignore Kurama's comment, as she walked into the testing room. As soon as she reached the middle of the room and stood in front of the desk that had Araka and Miza, the new teacher sitting at it, she was asked to perform the Bunshin no Jutsu. She pretended to go through the necessary hand seals and while doing so, she felt the new teacher attempting to cast a genjutsu on her. For a moment, she considered just killing him right here, but since Naruto seems to have something planned for him, Yuna decided to just ignore the interference and create the clone. Their new teacher was, naturally, surprised when she managed to create a clone despite his interference, but considering the current situation, he couldn't say anything about it. Araka congratulated her and handed over her Konoha headband, which would identify her as one of Konoha's shinobi from now on. After everyone except for Naruto received their headbands, they went home to their families. Naruto was the only one left behind while being depressed about his failure. Yuna and Hinata were naturally watching him from afar, to see what kind of scheme Naruto had come up with. Although Yuna had already expected their new teacher to be the culprit, she couldn't help but chuckle a little when she saw him approach Naruto. Go for it, side character C. Go down how you are supposed to, in a single flare of forgettable light. Chapter 44, Mize, Dude. Meanwhile, the two ANBU that were following the twins around were giving each other weird looks. Today was supposed to be the last day of their mission, but it seems another troublesome situation will happen before the day ends. They didn't know what Mizuki told Naruto, but after seeing Naruto grin they doubted it would end well for Mizuki. They also noticed that Hinata and Yuna were following Naruto, as well, which obviously would make the situation even worse for Mizuki. The four people followed Naruto and saw him enter the Hokage tower and leave it again, after 30 minutes, with a huge scroll strapped on his back. The two ANBU grew even more bewildered when they saw that scroll. Where did it come from and why was Naruto carrying it around? Yuna, meanwhile, had a rough understanding of the situation. She hid at a different angle when Naruto and Mizuki were talking and managed to read their lips. Mizuki apparently wanted Naruto to steal some important scroll out of the Hokage's office. She had no idea how someone could fall for such a ridiculous lie, but she was pretty sure Naruto didn't. She had, however, an idea where the scroll on Naruto's back came from and already had a rough idea of what Naruto was planning. Naruto was currently speeding through Konoha with a smirk on his face. After a few more minutes of travel, he arrived in a forest just outside the village. This was the place Mizuki told him to deliver the scroll to. After a few more minutes of waiting, Mizuki appeared with a smile on his face. Good job, Naruto. You managed to pass the secret test. Just hand over the scroll and I will promote you to a genin. Naruto almost sneered when he heard Mizuki's speech. In the last few years, he has become more and more experienced at reading people's emotions and he could easily tell how much Mizuki hated him. For now, however, he decided to keep up the act. A goofy smile appeared on Naruto's face as he nodded in excitement. Of course, I did it. I will be really great one day, so getting the scroll was, naturally, easy for me. After saying that, Naruto tossed the big scroll on his back towards Mizuki, who caught it with glee in his eyes. Truth be told, he only wanted one of the demons to get in trouble before he betrayed Konoha and maybe get the chance to kill one of them. He never expected to actually get the scroll of seals. The reward Orochimaru would give him for this should be pretty good. He couldn't help but get excited at the prospect of becoming one of Orochimaru's most important shinobi. Well done, Naruto. Here is your reward for getting the scroll. It's death. Mizuki quickly sank both his hands into the small bags on his belt and moments later, four shurikens were flying towards Naruto. Although Naruto was slightly surprised at suddenly being attacked, he didn't panic, at all. Yuna had trained him for a long time now and constant vigilance was something that has been pretty much engraved into his bones. He saw the shuriken flying at him and decided to get killed by them. Naruto didn't expect Mizuki to hate him enough to actually attempt to kill him, but for the sake of his prank, he decided to just go through with it. Simultaneously, he decided to make the whole thing much more vicious as revenge for actually attempting to kill him. What Naruto didn't expect to happen, however, was that just a moment before the shurikens were about to hit him, Araka jumped in front of him in an attempt to block the shuriken with his body. Naruto's eyes almost fell out of their sockets when he saw that. If Araka just blocked the shuriken with a kunai or something like that, it would still be fine. Yes, his prank would have been ruined, but that was all there was to it. Now, however, there was actually a chance for Araka to get fatally wounded because of it. Naruto was just about to use some of Kurama's chakra, no matter the consequences, when another 4 shurikens came flying and blocked the 4 Mizuki had used. Mizuki was, naturally, angered by this and he immediately started yelling. Who is there? Show yourself. As soon as he finished speaking, Yuna revealed herself with a wry expression on her face. Seriously, Araka, what are you even doing? It's good that you want to protect Naruto, but you do realize there are other methods than using your body as a shield, right? Araka's face slightly reddened after he heard Yuna's comment and he was just about to answer when Mizuki intervened. To think both the demons would be here, today is truly my lucky day. Not only did I get my hands on the scroll of seals, I even get the chance to kill the twin demons. Yeah, Mezu, Mize, dude, you sure are amazing. A rather awkward silence descended on the surroundings when everyone realized that Yuna doesn't even remember Mizuki's name. This was actually a problem she had in her past life as well. She simply couldn't remember the names of people she deemed uninteresting. Mizuki, as side character C, naturally, fell into that category. Mizuki, naturally, grew even more furious when he realized that Yuna doesn't even remember his name. What the hell? How can you not even remember my name? I have been teaching your class for half a year already. Are you an idiot? Yuna, of course, couldn't let someone curse her like that, so she stepped forward with confidence. I was just playing with you. Of course, I know your name, Mizaki. During the awkward silence after Yuna's sentence, Naruto quietly approached her and whispered something into her ear. After a nod of understanding, she crossed her arms in front of her body. An arrogant sneer appeared on her face as she spoke her next sentence. I was just playing with you. Of course, I know your name, Mizuki. After another awkward pause, Mizuki finally snapped. I see now, you want to distract me with your nonsense until reinforcement arrives, but there is no way someone in this village would willingly help you. Do you want to know why? Do you want to know the reason why everybody hates you? Of course, I want to know about it, Ms. Yuna stopped for a moment and seemed to be thinking about something very hard for a moment. Uka. Tell me about it. Mizuki simply ignored that Yuna seemed to have forgotten his name yet again and proceeded with unveiling the big secret. You two have. Stop it, Mizuki, don't tell them. Before the big secret could be revealed, Araka intervened, but that, naturally, wouldn't stop Mizuki. The QB sealed inside you. That's right, both of you are monsters, that's why everyone in the village hates you. Araka panicked when he heard Mizuki reveal the secret of the QB and expected the twins to sink into despair when they heard about it. To his surprise, however, Yuna and Naruto were currently looking at Mizuki like he was an idiot. A few moments later, Yuna's face switched to one filled with joy. Oh my god, Naruto, did you hear that? Apparently, the QB is sealed inside us. Naruto, immediately, mimicked Yuna's expression when he understood her plan. Isn't that amazing, Nei-san? To think we would have the QB sealed inside us. I know, right? This is such an exclusive secret. Only about 90% of the village know about it. We are truly lucky to be informed about a 20-story tall fox being sealed inside us. I know, right? How could we possibly find out about someone else literally being stored inside us? That's just ridiculous. Yuna could have sworn she heard a few people chuckle in the background, but decided to ignore it. She saw how Araka and Mizuki were both flabbergasted that Naruto and she already knew about the QB and could only shake her head at their reactions. Seriously, why do these people think we don't know about it? Our birthday is literally the same day as the attack on Konoha and everyone is calling us demons. If you are capable of adding one and one together, it is rather obvious what is going on. Yuna had already lost interest in the current situation, so she decided to end it now. Oh well, Naruto, let's end this. Just knock him out and we can get this over with. Okay, Nei-san. Without another word, the scroll on Mizuki's back disappeared into a cloud of smoke, and as soon as the cloud disappeared, a second Naruto was revealed, standing next to a knocked-out Mizuki. Seeing what happened just now, Yuna couldn't help but ask a question. I am just curious, but what was your actual plan for the prank? Naruto nodded in understanding and started to explain what he had planned out. I thought he wanted the scroll to get stronger himself and would take it home after getting it. After he went to sleep, I would knock him out and then paint his whole house orange, like, the whole thing. After he tried to kill me, however, I changed my plans. I wanted to pretend that I died after being critically injured by his shuriken, and after he took my shadow clone in scroll form home, I would still knock him out. This time, however, I would search for his porn collection. You told me every man would have, tie him up and place him together with his collection in the middle of the market. Yuna felt a shiver of pure terror going through Araka and the two ANBU guards but decided to ignore it. You do realize that even if you did it, you wouldn't be promoted to genin, right? This time, Naruto actually froze up. He didn't think about that at all. He only had his successful prank in mind, without thinking about the consequences. Seeing that Naruto was pretty close to crying, she could only shake her head in exasperation. Fine, Naruto. Don't worry about it. Nei-san will help you solve your problem. Yuna still had a rather effective trump card against the Hokage, and although she would rather preserve it for more serious issues, if it was for Naruto, she wouldn't mind using it. There is no need for that. Surprisingly, Araka had something to say. He approached Naruto and took off his shinobi headband with the Konoha symbol on it. Due to your outstanding service towards Konoha in not only reporting about a Chunin attempting to betray Konoha but even knocking him out, I will use my authority as a Chunin teacher to promote you to a genin. Yuna was rather suspicious about that kind declaration. After all, Naruto didn't report anything and certainly didn't do it for the sake of Konoha. But after seeing Naruto's relieved smile and seeing that the ANBU guards didn't seem to mind, she simply stopped worrying about it. Like this, I can at least use my trump card for what I intended it to be used. Chapter 45, Blatant Bribery. Hiruzen was currently sitting inside his office and was reading his favorite book. While reading, a perverted chuckle would occasionally escape his lips. No matter how often I read this, I simply can't get enough of it. There are rumors that the author is working on his next book, but no information on when it will be released. Will it be a sequel to Garden of Lilies, or a completely new storyline? I really can't wait. These rumors were, of course, spread by Yuna herself. There is no better advertisement than having people talk about it after all. She plans to release her new book in a few months when the rumor mill is at its peak. Hiruzen was just about to turn the pages when he heard someone land on the window frame of the window behind him. In his mind, the only one who would do something this brazen was Jiraiya. Hiruzen turned around with a scowl on his face and was just about to start scolding Jiraiya when he completely froze up. Instead of a middle-aged man, he was crossing eyes with a young teenage girl. His hands blurred and with a speed that might even surpass him at his peak, he hid away his book inside one of his drawers. Yo, old man. I want to talk about something important. Hiruzen was slightly relieved when Yuna apparently didn't notice the book he was reading but was also rather confused about why she came to his office through the window. I'm, naturally, happy to help you with your problems, but why did you decide to come through the window? You should know that my job is very important and not everyo. I saw the book you were reading. As I said, whatever it is I can help you with, I will naturally do so. Haha, that's good, but you should know that the matter I want to talk about is really important. After that sentence, Yuna discreetly pointed at the trigger for the privacy seals. Although Hiruzen had no idea how Yuna knew of the correct position, he simply decided to ignore that for now and simply activate the seal. He was currently thinking about how he could convince Yuna that he wasn't brazenly reading porn inside his office. Alright, we can talk freely now. What is so important that you had to interrupt me finding out about Konoha's current trends? I am here to make a little deal with you in regards to the team assignments. There are a few things I would like your support with. Oh, by the way, I know that book was released years ago. Hiruzen could feel a dagger pierce his heart after Yuna revealed his lie, but he still kept his stoic face. As for her request in regards to the team placements, he wasn't surprised in the slightest. She probably wants to be in a team with Naruto and Hinata, but that, unfortunately, is impossible. Having both Jinchuriki in the same genin team can't be allowed, after all. Well, I am an old man and have a lot of work to do, so it is rather hard to keep up with the trend. Being a few years behind is nothing unusual at all. As for your request, I, unfortunately, have to den. Now, let us not say anything we might regret later, okay? Yuna quickly raised both her hands and stopped Hiruzen from saying more. Hiruzen couldn't help but look at her weirdly. Why does that sound like she wants to threaten me? Does she think she can threaten me, now that she has seen me reading that book? No, I don't think she would be that stupid. While Hiruzen was pondering what Yuna might be planning, she pulled out a small book that looked rather similar to the one Hiruzen was just reading. She carefully put it onto the table in front of Hiruzen and then crossed her arms in front of her and waited for Hiruzen to make a decision. Hiruzen couldn't help but be slightly taken aback at how confident Yuna seemed. He carefully picked up the book and inspected it. He was slightly surprised that it was actually signed, but a sneer of disdain quickly appeared on his face. Not a bad move, and I have to admit that it probably wasn't easy to get your hands on a signed copy, but, aren't you looking down on me? I, naturally, have my own signed copy safely stored away at home. You won't be able to bribe me this easily. I'm surprised you got your hands on this, but bribing the Hokage isn't that easy. At this point in time, Hiruzen had already forgotten that he wanted to convince Yuna that he wasn't reading porn inside his office. By thinking he could be bribed with a simple signed copy, Yuna implied that she didn't think he had one. That naturally went against his pride of being a true fan, and he had to put her in her place. Yuna's smile, however, only widened after Hiruzen's rejection. Oh? Are you sure about that? For some reason, a shudder went through Hiruzen's body. The last time Yuna acted like this was when she finished off Inoichi. He gave the book another glance, and that came to a mind-blowing realization. No way. It cannot be one of them. Hiruzen lifted his head and gave Yuna another glance. The only thing he could see in Yuna's eyes was mockery. She was looking down at him for thinking that a signed copy was already the peak. For being a frog in the well that doesn't know how high the heavens truly are. With shaking hands, Hiruzen picked up the book again. He carefully turned the pages like they were the most breakable material in the world and finally reached that page. After reading that name, his mind almost exploded. This is a review copy that was signed by the author. It took Hiruzen a few minutes to regather his thoughts, but when he did, he carefully closed the book, put it into a safety sleeve that seemed to have appeared out of nowhere, put it into one of the drawers of his table, and then closed the drawer, causing a few seals to light up to confirm the closing process. A grandfatherly smile appeared on Hiruzen's face. Yuna, no need to worry. As this village's Hokage, it is of utmost importance for me to help my citizens out. If you want me to shuffle around the team assignments a little, then I will naturally do so. Yuna really wanted to give Hiruzen's shamelessness a thumbs up, however, since it fit her agenda, she would ignore it for now. As expected of the Hokage, you really are great. Anyway, here are my requests: put Hinata, Naruto, and me in different teams. I have been babysitting those two for quite a while now, and it's time for them to learn to walk on their own legs. Hiruzen only nodded at that. He planned to separate Naruto from the two anyway and put him in a team with two other genins. As for Yuna and Hinata, they were supposed to be part of the 5-team cell under Kurinai Yuhi that specializes in tracking. A censor as ridiculous as Yuna would naturally be a good fit for that team. Since Yuna seems to have her own ideas, he didn't mind accommodating her for a bit. As for the second request, I want you to put me in a 2-man cell. Just me and a jonin, and I want that jonin to specialize in infiltration and assassination. Absolutely not. Why would you want that? No need to worry about that. Just assign a jonin to me. From what I heard, jonins can reject the genins that were assigned to them, if they deem them not suitable. Just make sure the jonin tests me fairly, and if he or she still rejects me, I will just join another group. How does that sound? Hiruzen ponders Yuna's offer for a while and then nodded his head in agreement. He will just give Yuna to a jonin and tell the jonin to reject her no matter what happens. That should solve the problem. Oh, by the way, I might have put a seal on that book that turns it into dust after getting activated. If I feel like I am being tricked, I might get angry and, totally on accident, of course, activate that seal. Oh, well, see you later, old man. Hiruzen nodded his head in understanding. As the Hokage, there was, naturally, no way he would trick one of his citizens with dirty schemes, so there was no need for Yuna to worry about anything. Chapter 46, Kakashi Hatake. Yuna, Naruto, and Hinata were currently standing in front of the academy. It was finally time for them to meet their new jonin senseis. Well, Naruto and Hinata would. Yuna sensei, apparently, is still outside of Konoha on a mission. All three of them wore rather similar-looking pants. But, while Naruto's were orange, Yuna's were ice blue and Hinata's were a violet, that looked suspiciously similar in color to Yuna's eyes. All three of them had, like most shinobi, a holster for shuriken and other tools on their sides. Although they looked like normal holsters that can be bought anywhere, Yuna slightly modified them with seals, which turned them into national treasure grade equipment. They have huge storage space, and as long as they aren't more than a kilometer apart, things inside one of the bags can be taken out from the other bags, as well. Additionally, they are pretty much impossible to be stolen or destroyed. Naruto wore a comfortable tracksuit. It was black with orange sleeves, and he had an orange Uzumaki clan symbol on his back. His hairstyle was rather similar to his father. Considering he has also been growing rather quickly lately and has reached 152 meters in height, and he looked very similar to his father. Yuna found it simply ridiculous that no one has said anything about that yet. He had a mischievous smile on his face and his blue eyes radiated excitement. Hinata, on the other hand, wore a simple white hooded jacket with a purple Uzumaki symbol on her back. Her jacket zipper was undone and revealed a simple blue shirt underneath it that, to Kurama's annoyance, had a very small red fox stitched onto it above Hinata's chakra center. It was gifted to her by Yuna with the words, "Now all three of us can have a lazy fox hanging around with us." And Hinata naturally loved it. She had hip-length hair that she simply let cascade down her back with two strands framing her face. Her height was 149 meters and she, just like Naruto, had excitement radiating out of her eyes, while a calm and confident smile adorned her face. Today she would finally be completely set free from the Hyuga clan and she naturally couldn't wait. Yuna wore a blue haori with white trimming that had purple snowflakes sewn into it. Her back was adorned with a golden Uzumaki clan symbol with 5 small purple spikes fitted around it. This combination made it look a little bit like Yuna was carrying a huge crown on her back if someone looks at it closer. Her crimson-colored hair with blue strands was tied to a simple ponytail that reached her shoulder blades, while one blue and one red of the strands were framing her face. Her facial features were similar to Kushina but much sharper. Unlike Kushina's eyes, which usually radiated friendliness and excitement, Yuna's purple eyes held deep profoundness and composure. Her height was similar to Naruto's at 151 meters. She didn't mind being a little smaller than Naruto, since it is rather normal for a man to be a bit taller than a woman. She had a calm smile on her face as she entered the Shinobi Academy for the last time. As soon as they entered the classroom, Ino approached them with a happy smile. "Hello, it is good to see that everyone is here." As soon as she finished that sentence, she glared at Naruto who could only chuckle dryly in return. "So, mind telling me what you failing the exam was all about?" Naruto gave her another small chuckle and then started his explanation. "Look, Ino-chan, it is not what. It was to play another prank, right?" Naruto seemed to have received a physical blow after Ino's question and staggered back a little. Unfortunately for him, the floor was, for some unknown reason, frozen over, exactly where Naruto was trying to step. Naruto slipped and started to fall. While he was falling, he tried to grab everything he could to prevent his fall. Unfortunately, that everything turned out to be Uchiha Sasuke, who was too busy brooding to react, so both of them crashed to the ground. When Yuna saw what kind of position they fell into, Yuna almost wanted to applaud Naruto's skills. Sasuke was laying on his back, while Naruto was on top of him. One of Naruto's knees was dangerously close to Sasuke's crotch, while Naruto was holding his upper body with one hand that was just beside Sasuke's ear. The spiciest part was that Naruto's and Sasuke's lips were almost touching each other. If Naruto's instincts were worse, it actually would have happened, huh? I just wanted Naruto to trip into Sasuke, who would have thought I would create such a spicy scene. Wahahaha, I can only imagine how my other part feels. I wonder if he would have managed to cut off his sense in time if it actually happened. Naruto. What are you doing to my Sasuke-kun? Yuna could only shake her head when she heard the banshee scream. Even after Yuna gave her a reality check, she still insisted on running after Sasuke. Naruto, on the other hand, was currently shaking in fear. The target of his fear was, naturally, not Sakura, but the two purple eyes that were currently locked onto him and held nothing but amusement. Naruto stood up as quickly as possible and was about to leave the room when two hands landed on his shoulders. Instead of hands, however, it felt like chains were attached to him instead. He slowly turned his head around and saw Yuna looking at him with a motherly smile. "Don't worry, Naruto, as your Nei-san I will naturally support you. I can't really approve of Sasuke, but I am sure things will work out somehow." Naruto's face turned completely pale after hearing that, while almost coughing up some blood. The whole classroom turned completely silent as everyone was giving Naruto and Sasuke weird looks. Yuna could see that she might be pushing a little far this time, so she decided to quickly de-escalate the situation. "Ha ha ha, Naruto, don't look at me like that. You should know I was only joking around, right?" Naruto couldn't help but give Yuna an angry pout. "Please control yourself, Nei-san." "Huh, sorry, okay. I was surprised how great you landed, so I lost control for a little." While Naruto and Yuna were bickering, Sasuke finally managed to get out of his stupor. He was just about to yell at the twins, when Araka entered the room, so the only thing he could do was glare at them. Yuna and Naruto, however, didn't even notice him, which made him even angrier. Okay, everyone. I am here to tell you about the Jonin that will act as your sensei from now on. You will form a team under your new sensei with 2 other genins and form a 3-man cell under the guidance of your Jonin sensei. From now on your sensei will be responsible for your education and will teach you how to become stronger. I will now read out the team assignments. Team 7 will consist of Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno. Yes, my love prevailed. And Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto couldn't help but groan when he heard that. His luck was really bad to be in a team with those 2. Yuna on the other hand could only nod in approval. Despite how he usually acts, that old man is surprisingly cunning. With Sasuke's arrogance and Sakura's obsession with him, these 2 make perfect cannon fodder in case the situation gets dicey. While idiot number 1 and 2 are happily fighting their opponents to the death, their sensei should have enough time to rescue the valuable Jinchuriki. Not bad, old man. Not bad, at all. Hiruzen, meanwhile, considered whether it was really okay to choose the new genin teams randomly after Yuna's request, but after considering how much time it would take him to properly balance them, time that he would rather spend admiring his new treasure, he decided to not think about it anymore. Back in the classroom, Araka continued his announcement. As for your Jonin sensei, it will be Kakashi Hatake. Apparently, Yuna Uzumaki will temporarily be part of Team 7, as well, since her Jonin is currently on a mission outside of Konoha. Oh? That was unexpected. I'm temporarily in a team with Naruto. Is the old man trying to butter up to me now? Hiruzen, meanwhile, was kowtowing in front of a shrine that had multiple books placed on it. At the very top of it, was the treasure he acquired just a few days ago from Yuna, the review copy of Garden of Lilies. I offer my prayer to Ero-sama, the god of gentlemen. The team assignments continued and about a minute later, everyone was assigned to a team. Hinata was together with Kiba Inuzuka and Shino Aburame. Kiba was rather brash and loud, but he at least seemed loyal, while Shino seemed to be calm and collected, which was slightly surprising to Yuna. In her previous life, people that grew bugs inside their body were pretty much all nut jobs, after all. Ino was teamed up with Shikamaru and Chuji, which probably doesn't surprise anyone that knew the history of their clans. They have been fighting side by side for ages and naturally would continue to do so. As for the Jonin that would lead their teams from now on, Yuna has almost no information about them except for their bingo book entries. She found it a little weird that Kurinai Yuhi, someone who excels at genjutsu, was taking charge of a tracking team, though. Your new sensei will appear here shortly. I wish everyone in this room good luck in their future endeavors. A few minutes later, Ino's and Hinata's sensei arrived to take them somewhere, while Team 7 and Yuna were still waiting. An hour later, the 4 of them still sat inside the classroom. Sasuke seemed to be determined to brood until Kakashi arrived, while Sakura seemed to get slowly annoyed by all the waiting. Yuna and Naruto meanwhile had their heads on their tables and appeared to be sleeping. Another hour passed by. Sakura was visibly annoyed, while Sasuke was continuing to brood. Yuna and Naruto were still sleeping with a calm smile on their faces. Meanwhile, Kakashi was looking at his new students and shook his head. They show no signs of wanting to be a team. Guess this is another failure. Those 2 twins are even sleeping. They seem to have no awareness of their surroundings at all. Oh well, guess I'll wait another hour. After saying that, he pulled a book out of his back pocket and started reading. Ah, Red Rose Sensei, just when will you release your next masterpiece? Another hour passes and as soon as Kakashi decides to stop observing their classroom, Yuna and Naruto wake up from their sleep. They glanced at each other for a moment and then nodded their heads. Naruto stood up with a smirk. He walked towards the door and placed a chalk sponge on top of it. What are you doing, idiot? He is a Jonin. There is no way he will fall for that. Naruto smirked at Sakura before answering her. The more layers you add, the harder it will be to find the core. Sakura had, naturally, no idea what that meant. She was about to retort, when the door opened and Kakashi entered, just to have a sponge fall on his head. Even Yuna couldn't help but raise her brow a little when she saw him actually fall for that. Is he trying to teach us something with this, or is he just not attuned to attacks without killing intent? How can I say this, my first imper? Kakashi, however, couldn't finish his sentence, as a barrage of wooden shuriken were shot at him. His single visible eye widened in surprise as he quickly dodged all of them with minimal movements. He was just about to dodge the last one when he noticed that a cake was being hurled at the exact location where he wanted to dodge to. He quickly pumped chakra through his body and twisted away his head to barely dodge the cake, and after he managed to do so, a single chalk sponge landed onto his head. This, immediately, silenced the room. Kakashi quickly scanned through the faces of his new team to understand the situation. Sasuke and Sakura seemed to have no idea what just happened, while Yuna and Naruto had an annoyed pout on their face. He was just about to put more thought into it when Naruto interrupted him. You know, sensei, that would have been much funnier if you weren't hit by the first sponge, you know? You are right, Naruto. Why did we even bother with that elaborate setup if we could have hit him that easy? What a waste. Silence descended on the room before it was broken by Sakura. Wait. You are responsible for the cakes. Chapter 47, Introductions. The 5 people sitting on the roof of the academy currently had a rather awkward atmosphere surrounding them. Sakura was staring daggers in an attempt to find out how those cakes kept appearing. Sasuke was brooding especially hard while thinking about that surprisingly well-coordinated surprise attack he just witnessed. Kakashi seemed to be deep in thoughts, as well. He was pondering how the twins managed to set all of that up in the short time it took him to reach the classroom. Naruto and Yuna, on the other hand, were waiting for Kakashi to start talking with casual smiles on their faces. Kakashi noticed that the mood was getting more and more awkward, so he decided to just start the conversation. Anyway, let's start with introductions, shall we? How about we start off by you saying a few things about yourself? Like your likes, dislikes, hobbies and dreams for the future. Sakura was the first to answer. Sensei, shouldn't you talk about yourself first? Huh? I guess that's true. Let's see. My name is Hatake Kakashi, my likes and dislikes. I don't want to tell you about them, my dream. Well, I have a lot of hobbies. Yuna could only roll her eyes at that half-assed introduction. His likes are reading a certain kind of book. I don't know all of his dreams, but one of them is probably getting his hands on a certain version of a certain kind of book, while his hobbies are reading a certain kind of book. All eyes immediately zeroed in on Kakashi, with each pair looking more suspicious than the last. Kakashi released an awkward sigh and then swiftly proceeds to divert the topic to something else. Anyway, Pinky, what about you? Me? Well, my name is Sakura Haruno. My likes are, the person I like is, as for my dream, yeah. During her introduction, Sakura was constantly glancing at Sasuke, who ignored her completely. Kakashi, on the other hand, was already getting a small headache. More interest in boys than in becoming a shinobi, huh? This will be really bothersome. As for my dislikes. The demon twins. Yuna only rolled her eyes at Sakura, while Naruto had a wry smile on his face. He didn't do anything at all. Wasn't Nasan the only one bullying her that one time? How come I am mixed in there, as well? Seems like at least Naruto isn't hostile to Sakura, despite her apparent dislike for Naruto. I see, thanks for that unique introduction. Blondie, you are next. Okay, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like my family members, those few I consider friends, and ramen. I dislike all those idiots who hate me without a reason. My hobbies are playing around with seals and pranking people, preferably together with Nasan. It is my dream to be surrounded by a lot of friends and family while having enough power to protect all of them. I'm pretty sure something rather outrageous was mixed in there just now. Did he say playing around with seals? Guess I should find out more about that when I have time. The first part of his dream seems rather fitting for a child that grew up without parents, but the second part makes it rather obvious that it wasn't a simple childish desire, but something he had actually thought about properly. He grew up rather interestingly, and it is pretty obvious that his big sister played a huge role in that. Alright, you are next, Grumpy. Although Sasuke was annoyed by that nickname, he decided to just get the introductions out of the way. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I dislike most things and don't like anything in particular. Rather than a dream, I have a certain ambition. I want to resurrect my clan and kill a certain person. Well, it is like I thought. Before Kakashi could disperse the dark atmosphere, Yuna's laughter echoed on the rooftop. Huh, damn, Sasuke, that is pretty good. To think our dreams would be this similar. I didn't expect to find a kindred soul in you. Everyone gave Yuna a weird glance when she said this. Only Naruto could more or less guess what she meant. Oh, well. Might, as well, start my introduction. I'm Yuna Uzumaki. Like Naruto, I like my family members and friends. Additionally, I enjoy fighting and pranking people. I dislike people that think they are big shots because they are related to someone important. As for my dreams, hee. Just like Sasuke, I also want to kill a certain man and then create a huge harem for myself to resurrect the Uzumaki clan. I am currently working on a method to make that possible, by the way. I have an additional dream man. Wait a moment. How is that the same as Sasuke-kun's? He didn't say anything about an HH harem. Yuna could only give her another eye roll. How else do you expect him to resurrect his clan? No matter how much he broods over it, new Uchiha won't appear out of nowhere. If he just wants a family, that is one thing, but to resurrect a whole clan, he would need to make a lot of descendants with multiple women, otherwise, the Uchiha genes will either be crippled by intermarriage or heavily diluted over time. Kakashi almost started to chuckle when Yuna finished her explanation. Now that I think about it, that is actually true. The always serious and proud last Uchiha proudly proclaimed that he is aiming for a harem. Considering Sasuke looks like he was just hit by a train, he probably hasn't considered that either. The color of Sakura's face, meanwhile, is constantly changing from a deep blush to a desperate pale face. Who knows what kind of thoughts are currently going through her head? I certainly don't want to know. Naruto seems to be rather indifferent about the whole matter. Does he already know about it? Now that I think about it, what does she mean by working on a method to make that possible? Ugh, I was warned that Yuna might be troublesome, but the introductions are barely finished and I'm already getting a serious headache. Thank you for another, enlightening, introduction, now that we... Whoa there, hold your horses. I was just about to unveil my additional dream when Sakura interrupted me. Aren't you interested? Somehow, Kakashi felt that saying yes would be a mistake, but he couldn't help but get curious about it. Fine then, go ahead. Hee, okay. My final dream is... Yuna's grin widened and her eyes shone with fierce determination. Kakashi was already regretting that he didn't stop her. To surpass everyone who stands in my way and eclipse this world's most powerful being. If another 12-year-old had said that, Kakashi would have probably dismissed it as a random child's ramblings, but Yuna's eyes were telling a different story. Unbendable confidence and willpower were radiating out of them as if she held no doubt that she would reach her goal and that it was just a matter of time. If that's all there was to it, he might have still dismissed it as a child not knowing what kind of nonsense it was spouting, but Yuna's smile that was laced with a thirst for battle told another story. She isn't unaware of the hardships. She welcomes them. Considering she mentioned that she likes fighting rather casually in her introduction, I wasn't paying much attention to it, but that seems to have been an oversight. Rather than saying her dream is to become the strongest, isn't it more fitting to say she wants to fight against the strongest? Luckily, she will switch to another jonin soon. I really don't want to deal with someone this thirsty for battle. Kakashi could see that Sakura and Sasuke were eyeing Yuna like she was an idiot, and his instincts were telling him that, if one of them said something dismissive about her dream right now, there will be a lot of trouble, so Kakashi quickly intervened. That is rather ambitious, but I guess you can't reach high if you don't aim high. Nice one, me. That should de-escalate the situation for now. Anyway, tomorrow we will be having a survival test. Those that don't pass will be sent back to the academy. No matter how much you beg or cry, if your Jonin sensei doesn't accept you, then too bad. Yuna is actually excluded from the test since I am not her official Jonin sensei. No way. Don't be like that, Kakashi. How about you let me take part, as well? I expect my own sensei to make it rather difficult for me, so if I can't even pass your test, I shouldn't even bother with the other one. Kakashi really wanted to curse Yuna for cunningly inserting herself into the group, but decided to not bother with it instead. I can't really fail this team anyway. Whether she is here or not doesn't really matter in the end. Fine, whatever, you can take part in it, as well. I suggest you don't eat any breakfast, since you might throw it up. Dismissed. If Kakashi saw the smirk that was currently on Yuna's and Naruto's faces, he would have probably changed his decision rather quickly. Chapter 49, Start of the Bell Test. Yuna and Naruto were currently on their way back home. Yuna noticed that Naruto wanted to ask something, but wasn't sure how to do it. Yuna could guess that it had something to do with tomorrow's survival training but decided to keep quiet until Naruto asked his questions. It took a few more minutes for Naruto to finally open his mouth. Ne-san, I have a question. Yuna only responded with a light hum, which Naruto interpreted as a go ahead. In the academy, most exercise we learned about during classes centered around teamwork, right? Yuna only nodded her head even though she had no clue. She spent most lessons zoned out, after all. Then why is our first lesson after the academy an exercise that could break apart our freshly created team? Yuna nodded in approval. Naruto really has grown up well and started to doubt the things most people would deem absolute truths. For example, their teacher's words. Well, Naruto, then what do you think will happen? What will the test be about? Naruto ponders for a while and then comes to a conclusion. It will probably force us to work together as a team. Or. Seeing that Yuna wasn't entirely satisfied with his answer, he kept pondering. Yuna seems to agree that it will have something to do with teamwork, so he only had to think in that direction. A few minutes later he came to a conclusion. We will not be forced to use teamwork. There will be no mention of teamwork at all, and there might even be circumstances that discourage it. Kakashi-sensei probably wants us to learn the importance of working as a team. Yuna nodded in approval. Well done, Naruto. I also think it will be something like this. Yuna, of course, had no idea what to expect from tomorrow's test. She only listened to Naruto's explanation and agreed with it. It was the day of their test and they were supposed to appear at the training ground at 7 in the morning. It was currently 8 in the morning and the trio was lazily eating breakfast. Hinata apparently had a similar test, which would start at 9. Luckily, Yuna did at least some research on Kakashi and found out that he is always at least 2 hours late. As for not eating breakfast, that was just stupid talk. What kind of idiot knows he will have to go through a survival test and not eat properly beforehand? Even if you puke it out somehow, your body would have at least absorbed some nutrition before doing so. Another 30 minutes passed and the trio left the house at the same time but headed in different directions. After an additional 15 minutes of walking, Yuna and Naruto reached the training ground and as expected, Kakashi was nowhere in sight. Sasuke was currently busy brooding even harder than usual, probably a combination of hunger and anger, while Sakura looked a little bit like a human corpse that starved to death a few minutes ago. Yo, you two look like shit. How was your day so far? Sasuke and Sakura naturally started glaring at Yuna immediately. They were just about to retort when Yuna tossed them a rice ball each. Eat something. Having 2 people starve on my first assignment isn't exactly a good advertisement for me. Kakashi-sensei told us not to eat anything for breakfast. Yuna could only roll her eyes at Sakura vehemently sticking to the rules when she was close to starving. Yuna hoped she could at least raise Sakura's worth from useless to could potentially be used as cannon fodder, but she guessed it just can't be done. To Yuna's surprise, however, Naruto pitched in. Well, Sakura, breakfast time is already over. Kakashi never told us to not eat any snacks after breakfast. You are not breaking any rules at all. Yuna could only shake her head at how naive that logic was. There is no way such a childlike logic could convince that stub, Did she just start eating that F***ing rice ball? Even Sasuke started eating, what the hell? Yuna couldn't help but look at Naruto like he was an alien. How the hell did that work? What did he do? Wait, this isn't the first time this has happened either. The first time this happened was with Kurama, or was it? Has he used this on me before? He would occasionally convince me to allow him an extra bowl of ramen despite me being against it at the start. Maybe. While Yuna was going through a minor existential crisis, Kurama could only shake his head inside Yuna's mindscape. In those situations, you act more like a doting grandmother than a big sister, so I am not surprised you cave in so easily to Naruto's requests. It took another half an hour for Kakashi to finally appear. Yo. You're late. Easy, easy, I got stuck on the road of life while getting here. Anyway, here is your test. Kakashi took out a timer and set it for noon and then took out 3 bells and bound them to his belt. Before the alarm rings, you have to get one of the bells. Everyone who doesn't have one will be sent back to the academy. What? But there are only 3 bells. Correct. One of you will be sent back no matter what. My test, my rules, there is nothing you can do about that. Sakura and Sasuke clenched their fist, while Naruto and Yuna gave each other a glance. The two of them have become rather experienced at communicating with only their eyes, and only a few moments later, they broke eye contact. Kakashi noticed their silent communication as well and couldn't help but get slightly curious at what those two had planned. Well, let's begin. The test starts, now. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura immediately dashed away and hid inside the nearby forest. Yuna, however, was still standing in front of Kakashi with a relaxed smile on her face. And her arms crossed in front of her chest. Aren't you a little off, Yuna? Hee, not at all. I have done my research after all. I know your weakness and will naturally exploit it. Oh? My weakness? Now I am getting rather interested. Let's see what you got. Shinobi Fighting Lesson Number 1 Taijutsu. After that sentence, Kakashi took a book out of his back pocket and started reading it. Yuna, however, only smirked at him. Seems like my theories about you were correct. Then let me show you what I got, rich second-generation hidden move, slapping your enemy's face with wealth. Similar to Kakashi, Yuna pulled a small book out of her back pocket. To Kakashi's surprise, it was the very book he was currently reading. Although he was a little surprised by that, he didn't care too much about it. Then, however, Yuna turned the book around, opened it, and revealed the last page. The first thing Kakashi noticed was the author's, Red Rose's, signature being present. This truly surprised him, since there are only very few signed copies out there. Kakashi, of course, had his own signed book, so he quickly recovered from his shock. It seems you have researched me rather well, but this alone won't be enough to shock me. Yuna's smirk, however, only got bigger when he heard that comment. She was in a rather similar situation a few days ago, after all. Without saying another word, she opened the book on a very specific page and showed it to Kakashi. Kakashi's one visible eye immediately widened, when he realized that Yuna was implying that she was currently holding one of the review copies of his favorite book in her hand. She said she could guess one of my dreams. Did she know I wanted this book? How did she find out about that? Kakashi didn't even notice that he had already revealed his Sharingan to make sure he wasn't tricked by a genjutsu. His Sharingan started spinning with lightning speed and scanned through the 2 pages, currently revealed by Yuna. He quickly found what he was looking for and couldn't help but be dazed by it. An actual review copy. To think I would see one in my lifetime. If I could get my hands on it, I would place it on top of my Shrikoff collection. While Kakashi was sinking further and further into his thoughts, his instincts suddenly flared. He immediately started to pump chakra into his feet and jumped away with all his might. Naruto, whose fingertips were already touching the bells, could only click his tongue in annoyance. Sorry, Nei-san. Seems like he noticed me. Huh, no worries, Naruto. I didn't expect this to be over this easily after all. Switch to plan B and start preparing. Yes, Nei-san. Naruto quickly disappeared into the forest again, while Kakashi approached Yuna again. I have to admit that it was almost my loss there. Yuna only shrugged at that. Yeah, but as expected, asking a 12-year-old to sneak up on an elite jonin was a little much to ask for. You almost sound like you were hoping for this plan to fail. Guilty. Yuna's face distorted into a battle-thirsty smile as she flared her chakra and caused the ground around her to crack. Kakashi could only sigh at that. What kind of trouble have I gotten myself into? Chapter 50, Yuna vs. Kakashi. Sasuke was truly stunned by what was currently happening in front of him. First, his new sensei revealed that he had a Sharingan, a dojutsu that should be exclusive to the Uchiha clan. This made it rather obvious why Kakashi was chosen as his sensei. Next, Naruto somehow managed to sneak up on their new sensei and almost stole the bells. Sasuke wasn't sure what exactly was going on, but it probably had something to do with that book Yuna was holding up the whole time. Kakashi seemed to become dazed after Yuna showed him one of the pages. Does she possess some sort of secret intel about Kakashi? What happened next, however, left Sasuke truly dumbfounded. Yuna flared her chakra. Even Sasuke, who was a few 100 meters away, could feel some pressure. Just how much chakra does she have? He really wanted to watch the fight, to see what Kakashi could do, but decided that it would be better to prepare his own ambush instead. With that crazy amount of chakra, she should be able to hold Kakashi back for a while. I will use that time to prepare an ambush to get the bell instantly. Just when he was about to leave, he saw Naruto approaching him. What do you want, idiot? Naruto could only shake his head at the unreasonable insults. Let's work together, there is no way we. Not interested. I don't need help from anybody, and especially not from you. Get lost, I have a bell to get. Naruto could only shrug at that. He could explain the true goal of this test to Sasuke, but why should he bother? Yuna had already explained to him the end result of this test, so he might as well have some fun with it. He walked deeper into the forest, and as soon as he reached a place he deemed adequate for his preparations, a devious smirk, that was rather similar to Yuna's, appeared on his face, while his 10 fingers lit up with blue chakra. Hee, let's see what I can get done before Kakashi-sensei arrives. Kakashi, on the other hand, wasn't having a good time at all. Since he already had his Sharingan revealed, he thought he might as well play around with Yuna for a while, but the moment he tried to read her movements, he felt like his head was hit by a hammer. Even though Yuna was just standing still, Kakashi was overwhelmed by over a dozen overlapping images of Yuna attacking him through different patterns, with each pattern being interlaced with an unheard-of number of feints. Seeing Kakashi groan in pain while covering his left eye, Yuna could only smirk. She has done some research on the Sharingan and came up with a rather amusing method to counter it. The Sharingan apparently reads someone's muscle movement and predicts the enemy's movement through that. She saw some records that said the user of the Sharingan sees his opponent's movement as an image that was moving slightly ahead of the attacker. So, what happens if you are constantly flexing your muscles to make it look like you will be moving in a certain way just to relax the muscles, again, and flex a different combination? The Sharingan will be overloaded with different movements, making it hard to concentrate on your actual enemies instead of his future images. Yuna wasn't sure if this would work on a real, experienced Uchiha, as well, but it was worth a try if she got the chance. Seeing that Kakashi had overcome his headache, Yuna finally decided to make her move. She decided not to bother with any fancy tricks and start with a frontal assault. She simply charged forward and punched towards Kakashi's stomach. Her fist was easily caught by Kakashi, but considering his eye twitched for a moment, he probably wasn't expecting such a hard punch. What is with this strength? She is slightly below the low jonin level. I haven't heard anything about this. Well, even with all that strength, she is still just a child without any combat experience. However, I would really like to know why my Sharingan reacted like that. Kakashi pushes Yuna's fist aside in an attempt to make her falter a little. Yuna, however, used that momentum to spin around in an attempt to backhand Kakashi with her other hand. He widened his eyes in surprise and jumped backwards, but Yuna wasn't done yet. Her backhand might have missed, but she still had momentum from spinning around once. She bent her legs and jumped at Kakashi, flipped around in mid-air, and delivered a powerful axe kick that Kakashi blocked by crossing his arms above him. As soon as the kick landed, Kakashi groaned a little while the ground underneath him cracked. Although my assessment of her physical strength was correct, she certainly knows how to use it properly. Is she really fresh out of the academy? Where did this crazy fighting style even come from? Yuna backflipped away from Kakashi and landed gracefully a few meters away from him. Her purple eyes shone with excitement and the battle-thirsty grin on her face got even more pronounced. Hee, this will be a lot of fun. He is physically stronger and faster than me, which isn't surprising, since I still have the body of a child, but can't compare to my combat experience. Seems like he wants to restrict himself to taijutsu only, which is probably quite the disadvantage for him, but oh well, I will take it. Kakashi, however, could only bemoan his fate when he saw the excitement in Yuna's eyes. Whoever her sensei will be, I hope he or she comes back as fast as possible. Like that, the two kept going back and forth for another 10 minutes, when Kakashi decided to end this, so he could test his actual students. Yuna immediately noticed that something changed and concluded that Kakashi decided to flip the table and stop playing around. Since he prepared a trap for me, it is only common courtesy to walk straight in. I don't think that is how it works. Hush, now. I need to concentrate to counter the trap. As Yuna expected, Kakashi showed an opening that she could use and swiftly punched him in the stomach. As soon as her punch landed, she knew something was off, and when the Kakashi she just punched turned into water, she knew for certain what happened. A water clone, huh? Haven't seen those before. Yuna immediately noticed Kakashi crouching behind her. What kind of weird-ass attack pose is that? Hidden Leaf Ancient Taijutsu Supreme Technique, a 1000 Years of Pain. Seeing what kind of attack Kakashi was using, Yuna's eyes turned as cold as ice while her face turned into a vicious smirk. Kakashi's attack was just about to hit, when the Yuna in front of him puffed into a cloud of smoke and vanished. Heavenly forbidden divine art. Yuna's cold words that seemed to be completely detached from emotions echoed over the training ground, sending shivers down the spines of everyone who heard them. Kakashi frantically scanned the battlefield in an attempt to find Yuna, but couldn't see her at all. Monkey King. Kakashi looked down and saw Yuna was laying between his legs with her right hand making a grabbing motion. Steals. Kakashi shuddered in terror when he realized what was going on. He started to frantically pump chakra into his legs in an attempt to get away from his current position. The Peaches of Immortality. Yuna's hand shot upwards, while Kakashi jumped away with all his strength. Yuna's hand almost found her target, but she seemed to have slightly miscalculated her aim, and Kakashi managed to get away just in time to avoid having his peaches stolen. As soon as he landed, he looked at Yuna like she was crazy. What are you doing? Do you know how dangerous that was? Yuna only snorted at that. We didn't even have our first date yet, but you are already aiming for my back door. I don't think that is any better. If more parts of his face were visible, it would be possible to see a little blush on Kakashi's face. ***, let's forget about that for now. Yuna rolled her eyes at how shamelessly Kakashi swept the whole matter under the rug. Fine, you probably want to play around with your actual team now to test their teamwork. Or lack of it. Kakashi widened his eyes for a moment when he heard that Yuna figured out his test and gave her a suspicious look. No need to look at me like that. I slept pretty much throughout the whole academy years and didn't even know that teamwork was one of the main subjects taught. Naruto figured it out on his own and told me about it. Kakashi grew even more suspicious when he heard that. Then why didn't you bother about it and attack me alone? There are actually 3 reasons. First, I simply wanted to fight a strong opponent like you on my own. Kakashi only nodded. He has expected this to be one of the reasons. This, however, would mean that she would rather fulfill her selfish desire, instead of supporting her team. A team that currently had her little brother in it. Second, no matter how much time I take away from Team 7, you won't fail them. It is in the interest of the village to have their Jinchuriki and the last Uchiha trained, after all. Kakashi really didn't want to admit it, but that was indeed the case. He could fail all the previous teams because there were no big shots in them. That was different from his current team. I see, so she indulged in her own desire, because there were no consequences, anyway. I guess I can live with that. And the last reason? Yuna smirked a little and lifted her hand, revealing a single golden bell. If a person can get the job done alone, then there is no reason for a team. Kakashi widened his eyes when he saw that bell. He gave his belt a quick glance and saw that one of them was indeed missing. When? He was just about to ask when Yuna managed to get the bell, when the realization hit him. Hee, that's right. Instead of stealing some peaches, I would rather go for a bell. Kakashi could only sigh in defeat. Whatever, time to find my students. Have fun. I should have bought Naruto a lot of prep time, so there should be quite the show waiting for you. Kakashi almost staggered when he heard that. Should I just retire? I hope Naruto isn't as bad as his sister, because if he is, my hair might fall out from stress. I still need to coax that review copy out of Yuna, as well. I wonder what she wants in return. Chapter 51, Naruto vs. Kakashi. Shinobi Fighting Lessons Number 2 Genjutsu. Kakashi looked at the unconscious Sakura and could only shake his head. This one needs a lot of training before she can get useful. Let's find Sasuke next and see what the last Uchiha can do. After a few more minutes of walking, he reached a clearing and found Sasuke standing in the middle of it with both of his hands inside his weapon holsters. Kakashi quickly glanced around and found quite a few traps strewn all over the clearing. Pretty good trap-making skills. A normal Chunin would probably have trouble finding all of them. Sasuke-kun, it seems like Yuna bought you quite a bit of time to prepare. Sasuke glanced at Kakashi's belt and sneered when he saw that there were still 3 bells on it. As expected, that idiot failed. No matter how much chakra she has, she will always be inferior to an Uchiha like me. Kakashi, of course, had already replaced the bell Yuna stole with a new one to trick his students. Well, for that to be true you would actually have to get a bell from me, no? Truth be told, Kakashi wasn't worried about Sasuke stealing a bell from him. Yuna hid her true skills very well and launched her surprise attack at the perfect moment. With Sasuke's personality, it is pretty much impossible that he had hidden any skills during his time at the academy, so Kakashi knew exactly what he was capable of. His skills were somewhere between Genin and Chunin, but considering he had almost no experience in real combat he was probably around high Genin in strength. Sasuke moved his hands and tossed shuriken all over the clearing, activating multiple traps simultaneously. Seeing every shuriken flawlessly activate a trap, Kakashi nodded in approval. As expected, Uchihas have always been pretty much peerless in the use of shuriken and Sasuke seems to have inherited that talent. Despite the massive amounts of weapons flying at him, Kakashi's pose was still rather casual. Dozens of weapons hit him simultaneously, but the moment he hit the ground, his body turned into a wooden log. Activating all of that was a waste, a single substitute, and all that effort is wasted. Sasuke, however, seems to have predicted that Kakashi would substitute himself and was already going through hand seals for his next move. He took a big breath and then exhaled a fireball towards Kakashi's new position. Fire style, Great Fireball Jutsu. Well, this probably would have been more impressive, if I hadn't fought that chakra monster called Yuna a few minutes ago. Kakashi went through his own hand seals and sank into the ground to dodge the fireball. After his fireball faded, Sasuke started to look around for Kakashi, but couldn't find him. Where is he hiding? I don't feel like I got him with that. Before Sasuke could think about the situation properly, 2 arms shot out of the ground, grabbed his legs, and pulled him up to his neck into the ground. Shinobi Fighting Lessons Number 3 Ninjutsu. Earth Style, Headhunter Jutsu. Well, that wasn't too bad but still not enough. Before Sasuke could say anything, Kakashi left to find Naruto. Maybe leaving him for last was a bad idea? Oh well, let's see what he's got. A few moments later, he reached another clearing, this time, with Naruto standing inside of it. To Kakashi's surprise, he couldn't detect a single trap. He didn't prepare any traps. No, that should be impossible. My instincts are telling me that something is off about the whole clearing. Hello, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto stopped for a moment and glanced at Kakashi's belt to check for bells. Did you take out a new bell after Ne-san got one? Kakashi crossed eyes with Naruto for a moment and could only shake his head. Absolute trust and not a single smidgen of doubt or jealousy, huh? Just how did these two turn out like that? Kakashi took off one of the bells and put it away in his pocket. Correct, she got one. However, she also told me that you are the one to figure out the purpose of the test, so why are you still going solo? Naruto could only give Kakashi a wry smile as an answer. Sasuke said that he doesn't need help from someone like me, while Sakura only cared about Sasuke from the start. Sorry, Kakashi-sensei, but I have my own pride as well. I asked both of them for help and they both denied my request, so rather than disgrace myself by further asking, I might as well take things into my own hands. Kakashi nodded in agreement. Working together with people that don't like you but are willing to cooperate, is a completely different matter from working together with people that don't like you and don't want to cooperate either. Well, Kakashi-sensei, I wonder if you can keep a secret for me? Although he felt that question was rather weird, he decided to still answer truthfully. That depends on who you want me to keep this secret from. Everyone except the Hokage. Kakashi ponders for a while and then agrees. As long as the Hokage is allowed to know about it, then it was fine. Alright, I agree, what is your SEC? Kakashi stopped talking when he felt an oppressive chakra leak out of Naruto. You have got to be joking. Kakashi really wanted to cry after he saw what happened in front of him. Naruto's nails grew larger, his facial features more savage and his eyes turned red. A single tail of red chakra appeared while a cloak of red bubbling chakra covered his body. Hehe, Kakashi-sensei, what do you think about my secret? By the way, no need to worry about the chakra leaking and alarming the village. I spent the time Ne-san bought me to put up a sealing array that prevents chakra leakage. So how about we have some fun? Seeing a rather familiar-looking grin on Naruto's face, Kakashi could only resign to his fate. Fourth, are you seeing this? Both your children are monsters. One more abnormal than the other. Naruto charged forward on his four limbs, jumped, and threw a powerful punch at Kakashi. Kakashi decided to dodge this one and since the ground around the impact point of the punch was obliterated, he concluded that this was a good decision. He quickly pulled down his headband to reveal his Sharingan and to his relief, he could see Naruto's movement properly. Or that was at least what he thought, until the red chakra, cloaking Naruto, started to move independently from Naruto's body without any prior indications. After a few minutes of back and forth, Naruto stopped his assault and stood back up. Huh, what Ne-san said is true, fighting a strong opponent is really fun. Kakashi really wanted to curse Yuna for installing that kind of idea into Naruto but could see it was already too late. Naruto was already too far gone. How about we kick it up a notch, Kakashi-sensei? Can't have all my work go to waste, after all. Kakashi didn't even bother to pretend that he was in control of the situation when he answered. I would rather not. Unfortunately for him, Naruto didn't care about his opinion and clapped his hands together to gather chakra. Uzumaki style, absolute control sealing array, activate. Kakashi's eyes turned lifeless when he saw the massive number of seals that started shining all over the clearing. I see, so I am still dreaming. I think right about now would be a rather good moment to wake up. Unfortunately, he didn't wake up but instead saw a massive number of kunai, shuriken, and, for some reason, cakes being hurled at him. His Sharingan started spinning like crazy as he started to fend off the endless assault of weapons, pastry, and Naruto himself. In a distant clearing, a clock rang an alarm, signaling that the test was over. Yuna was currently lazing around in said clearing, while happily munching on some dried fish. Recently she has started to enjoy this rather unusual snack, that was imported from the land of water. A few moments later, Sasuke and Sakura appeared in the clearing. Sasuke seems to be covered up to the neck in dirt like his whole body had been buried in it, while Sakura looked like she spent the last few hours with her face pushed into the grass. What the hell did Kakashi do to these two? Yo, did you enjoy yourself? Sakura was just about to explode into a rant when Kakashi came walking out of the jungle closely followed by Naruto. On the first look, Naruto's condition seemed to be much worse than Kakashi, but Yuna's experienced eyes could clearly tell what was going on. Both of them are pretty spent, huh? But, while Kakashi plays it cool, Naruto doesn't bother about that and shows how exhausted he really is. Well, this is the consequence of allowing someone with high mastery over seals and obscene amounts of chakra to properly prepare the battlefield. As soon as Naruto saw Yuna, his face lit up with a smile and he started running towards her. Kakashi almost coughed out some blood when he saw that Naruto had already recovered enough stamina to run. That damn monster. He has been continuously attacking me relentlessly for the last 40 minutes and seems to already be good to go again. Nei-san, I almost got one of the bells a few times. Seeing Naruto's eyes that radiated excitement, how could Yuna not know that he wanted to be praised? Huh, good job, Naruto. Even for me, getting a bell wasn't easy. You got a bell. Sasuke and Sakura seem to actually be in sync for once. Sakura will probably be rather happy about that when she thinks about it later today. Before the situation could escalate, Kakashi quickly intervened. Yuna did indeed get one of the bells, but that isn't really of importance. She wasn't part of this team from the beginning, so it doesn't really matter. You still don't understand what this test was all about. Kakashi glanced at Naruto in order to not make him spill the beans, but could see that Naruto already understood the situation. Despite not seeming very bright on the first look, he is very quick-witted and good at reading the mood. Whoever trained Naruto knew exactly what she was doing. Kakashi gave Yuna another glance and noticed that she was absent-mindedly munching on some snack, while apparently not even being aware of her surroundings. My instincts are telling me that Yuna's role in all of this is much bigger than she shows to the outside. To what degree was today manipulated by her? Did she only have some fun fighting a strong opponent and consequently gave Naruto more time to prepare, or does the rabbit hole go much deeper than this? What the test was about? Wasn't it about stealing the bells from you, Kakashi-sensei? To Kakashi's surprise, Naruto was the first one to push the conversation forward. If he wasn't looking incredibly bored right now, I might even think that the question was genuine. His eyes are occasionally glancing at Sakura and Sasuke while almost screaming, "Figure it out already," so that is probably not the case. Since Naruto wants to push the conversation forward, Kakashi, naturally, wouldn't stop Naruto. Of course, it wasn't. As genin fresh from the academy, it is pretty much impossible for you to steal those bells from me. Yuna's case was rather unique, so that doesn't count. The true goal was for you to work together as a team despite being pitted against each other. Kakashi couldn't help but cringe a little when he said it was impossible for a genin to steal the bells when Yuna actually did it and Naruto almost did it a few times. Kakashi wasn't exactly a normal jonin, after all. The people inside Konoha that could go toe-to-toe with him could probably be counted on one hand. Naruto was, yet again, the one to push the situation forward. If we were supposed to fight as a team, then why weren't there enough bells for each of us? That was, of course, to disrupt your teamwork. You will be working together as a team for a long time now, and if something this simple already stops you from working together, you might as well stop being a shinobi right here and now. You are unfit for that occupation. Kakashi could immediately feel resentment oozing out of Sasuke after he said that. Sasuke took out a kunai and charged at Kakashi. I will not be stopped here. Kakashi could only shake his head after seeing such a reckless charge. Anger might improve someone's chance of victory in certain situations, but reckless anger is never a good thing. The moment Sasuke got into the range of Kakashi's arms, he was on the ground with his face pressed into the dirt and Kakashi's foot on his head. It seems like you truly don't understand how outclassed you are. Don't step on Sasuke-kun. While Sakura was screeching and Sasuke was dumbfounded by how easily he was subdued, Naruto's face became solemn. He knew that Kakashi had acknowledged playing by Naruto's rules when he entered the clearing that was stuffed to the brim with his seals, but just now, he realized how much of a handicap Kakashi actually gave him. Yuna, meanwhile, didn't care about the situation at all. She knew more or less how strong Kakashi was and didn't think he and her would ever have a fight against each other where they would reveal all their trump cards, so she lost most of her interest in him. Remember these words well. In my opinion, there is nothing more important than to follow them. Those who break the rules and codes of the ninja are called trash, but those who don't care for their comrades are lower than trash. To everyone's surprise, as soon as Kakashi said those words, boisterous laughter echoed through the battlefield. Gahahaha, good, very good. That is exactly how it is. Those that choose to abandon people that trusted them are nothing but trash. The rules, common sense. Only by trusting those you consider close can you live a truly happy life. After giving her small speech, everyone was giving Yuna weird looks for that sudden outburst but decided to ignore her a few moments later. The only one slightly affected seemed to be Kakashi, who recovered after a few seconds. Anyway, I will give you a second chance. Yuna has already passed and won't participate in this one. Naruto and Sasuke, you two will be allowed to eat something, while Sakura gets tied to a pole without getting any food. She was the worst in the first part of the test after all. Afterward, Kakashi swiftly tied Sakura to one of the poles that were present on the training ground and then left the four people alone. Kakashi was currently crouching in one of the trees and observing the situation. He immediately noticed that Yuna was missing and wondered where she went. Weird, I am pretty sure she. So, Kakashi, do you think Sasuke will see through this? Although Kakashi almost involuntarily changed the color of his underwear, he still played it cool. I am pretty sure he will. I dropped like half a dozen hints on how important teamwork is after all. You sure are optimistic. While Naruto and Sasuke were eating, the atmosphere grew more and more awkward by the moment. From an outsider's perspective, it was rather obvious that Naruto wanted nothing more than to give Sakura some food to finally end this farce, but it was rather obvious that he wanted Sasuke to be the one who initiated it to strengthen the teamwork of this group. It took Sasuke quite a while to finally realize that they were supposed to work as a team and that Sakura would pretty much be useless if she was starving during the whole fight. He finally came to the conclusion that he would have to give her some food, for her to be useful, and as soon as he did, Naruto pitched in as well to share some of his food. Sasuke actually managed to figure it out, huh? Kakashi was probably even more surprised than Yuna but decided to play it cool. Of course, he did. Yuna didn't bother to expose Kakashi and allowed him to play the role of the knowledgeable sensei. Next, Kakashi appeared in front of the newly formed Team 7, told them that they have passed, and then explained to them the importance of teamwork yet again. Tomorrow they would finally start their first official shinobi mission. Chapter 52, Hinata meets her new team. Hinata couldn't help but be excited about today. She had already received her shinobi headband yesterday and today, she would meet her Jonin sensei. Yuna had already told her that there would be an additional test, but she didn't think she would fail it, at all. After passing that test, she would finally become an adult, which meant that she wouldn't have to hide herself from the Hyuga clan anymore. She could finally show her real self in public. Hinata, actually, discusses with Yuna whether she should show her real self to her team or not, and they have come to the conclusion that she should. After all, what if she held back and, as a consequence, didn't pass the test? After the teams were announced, Hinata got a little disappointed that she wasn't teamed up with Naruto or Yuna, but decided to just walk forward with her head held high. Yuna had already told her of this possibility and said that she couldn't babysit her forever. Although Hinata agreed to that, it felt weird to be separated from Yuna like this. After a bit of waiting, her new sensei arrived at the classroom and told Hinata and her new team to meet on the roof of the building. While walking towards the roof with her two new teammates, Shino and Kiba, she was still acting meek with her head lowered, but while nobody was paying attention to her, she activated her Byakugan to take a look at her new sensei. Hinata couldn't help but frown a little. Her chakra is more or less at the level of a normal jonin, but her body seems incredibly frail. Maybe somewhere around mid-chunin? Hinata started to think about their new sensei and quickly remembered that she had read about her in the bingo book that Yuna forced her to read. I see, Konoha's #1 genjutsu user, huh? I guess she doesn't put much effort into physical training then. Hinata also noticed that Kiba would occasionally glare at her, which wasn't really surprising. Considering how meek and frail I have portrayed myself so far, it's no surprise he is unhappy. I also wouldn't be happy to be paired up with a weakling. The trio reached the rooftop, and as soon as they did, Hinata decided to stop pretending. Fooling her teammates any longer would be rather insulting in her opinion. Her back straightened, her steps became self-assured, and a confident smile appeared on her face. Yuna had spent a lot of time training Hinata how to trick people, and manipulating her own face and movements was what Yuna places the most focus on. She said that the best way to defeat someone stronger than yourself is by tricking that person into thinking he has won, just to counterattack with a deadly strike. Yuna's training rarely focuses on actual combat, except for most of their sparring matches. Feints, lying, acting, manipulating, and stealth, everything someone can think of to survive a fight. Most of those things were usually presented as some form of game or other fun activity, but over the years, Hinata started to understand what was happening. Yuna didn't train them to win a fight, she trained them to survive no matter the situation. Even if you lose a fight, you can still win the war. Yuna seemed to have said that rather casually, but it truly resonated with Hinata. She had lost the fight and was kicked out of the Hyuga clan. She thought everything was over for her, but then, Yuna picked her up and offered her a real home. The last 7 years were, without a doubt, the best in her life. She thought she had lost everything after getting kicked out of the Hyuga clan, but it was only a single fight she lost. At this point in time, she had, pretty much, lost all interest in the Hyuga clan, but if they wanted to pick another fight with her, she would not only win the fight but the war as well. After a few more years of training, Hinata was confident that even the patriarch, her father, and the elders of the clan would no longer be her match. The first person to notice Hinata's change was, naturally, Kurinai. She has read about Hinata and couldn't help but feel pity for the young girl. Her clan kicked her out, and then she was forced by the so-called demon twins to serve them. Kurinai, of course, wasn't so stupid to believe in those ridiculous rumors about the twins, but she could at least tell that something was off. Despite living with them for 7 years, she was still an incredibly meek girl around them. It was rather obvious that they were bullying her into submission. Now, however, all that shyness seems to be gone. She casually walked past Kiba and Shino and sat down right in front of Kurinai, while Kiba and Shino sat down next to Hinata with a confused expression on their faces. Well, Kiba looked confused, while Shino's face was pretty much hidden from view like always. Hello, my name is Kurinai Yuhi and I will be your sensei from now on. Let's start with a little introduction so we can get to know each other better. We will be working together as a team for quite a while now, after all. How about you tell us about your likes, dislikes, hobbies, and dreams for the future for now? If you want to leave one of those out, that is, naturally, fine as well. Who would like to start? To everyone's surprise, Hinata was the first one to start talking. I guess I will start then. The name is Hinata. I like my new family and those few I consider friends. I dislike people that abandon those they are close with and those that believe in stupid rumors. My hobbies are working on my water nature manipulation and training with my sword. My dreams for the future, that's a secret. Hinata blushed a little after her last sentence, but no one noticed that. The other 3 people on the rooftop were looking at Hinata like she just grew a second head. It took quite a while for the first person, Kiba, to awaken from his stupor. He jumped up and pointed his finger at Hinata. Who are you? For a split second, a sliver of mischief was visible in Hinata's eyes, before it quickly changed into fear. Hinata lowered her head and tried to look as small as possible, while she seems to be on the verge of crying. I am Hinata. What do you mean KK Kiba-kun? Kiba felt like he was hit by lightning when Hinata was suddenly on the verge of tears because of him. He was genuinely surprised by her sudden change of character and wanted to know what was going on. He might not be happy that the meek Hinata is in his team, but that doesn't mean he wanted to make her cry. He felt a bit of killing intent hit him and noticed that his new sensei was actually the one to glare at him with a bit of killing intent. He really wanted to cry when he noticed her glare. You were as surprised as I was by Hinata's sudden change in character. I bet if I hadn't said anything you would have been the one to make that remark. Kiba glared back at her in an attempt to make his position clear, and considering that Kurinai's glare grew less intense, it seems to work. Before any more misunderstandings could happen, loud laughter echoed over the rooftops. Wahahaha, how did you like that one, Kiba? Almost got you into trouble, didn't I? Kiba and Kurinai, yet again, stared at Hinata in disbelief, while Shino seemed to have decided to exit this conversation. He was intensely staring at a single bug sitting on top of his finger, without moving a single centimeter. This time, Kurinai was the first to speak. Although I can't agree with the way Kiba said it, you are clearly different from the Hinata I have heard about. Could you explain to us what exactly is going on? Sure. That is why I am acting like this, after all. The Hyuga clan might have kicked me out, but if they noticed that I actually wasn't incompetent, they might try to re-adopt me forcefully. That is why I kept playing the role of the incompetent, shy, little girl for the past 7 years. Now that I finally became a genin and can be acknowledged as an adult, I no longer need to worry about that. Since you will be in my team from now on, I decided to reveal my true self to you. Yet again, silence descended on the rooftop. None of the people present could imagine what it would be like to act like you are someone else for over 7 years. Yet again, Kiba was the first to awaken from his stupor. Then what about the demon twins? You were living together with them, right? I heard you were their servant. What did they do? Before he could finish his sentence, Hinata's hand shot out. It stopped right in front of Kiba's neck, and Hinata's index was touching Kiba's skin right above his windpipe. It was rather obvious that, if Hinata wanted to, that strike would have been lethal. Kurinai was completely flabbergasted by that surprise attack, especially since she doesn't have the confidence to block it if she was in Kiba's situation. Where did that speed and precision come from? During her classes at the academy, she barely managed to pass the tests. Before Kurinai could pacify the situation, Hinata opened her mouth and spoke with a cold voice that was filled with loathing. I have endured hearing people mock Yuna and Naruto for over 7 years now, and I can't stand it anymore. Those two, especially Yuna, are my saviors. Without them, I would have died on the streets of Konoha. Everything I have today is because of them. I will no longer tolerate mockery towards them. Is that understood? Hinata's presence seems to grow even more oppressive after that last question. Her chakra flared out and put pressure on Kiba and Shino, while Kurinai was surprised by the massive amount of chakra Hinata possesses for someone this young. I see. Seems like I have misjudged the whole situation. Considering how high her current chakra level is, the Hyuga clan would probably want to get her back into the clan as soon as possible. That is why she hid away behind a mask of incompetence. Rather than bullying her into servitude, it was probably the twins' encouragement that allowed Hinata to wear her mask for this long without slipping even once. Now I really want to meet those two and see what they are really like. Well, Hinata, how about you calm down for now? I am sure Kiba was just repeating rumors he heard, without paying much attention to his words. After hearing Kurinai's words, Hinata closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The pressure she was emitting gradually calmed down, while her face turned more and more serene. I am sorry for that, Kiba-kun. People have been mocking those two for a long time now, and it seems like I overreacted a little when I realized that I am no longer shackled to the Hyuga clan and can finally show my real self. Although Kiba was slightly surprised by that sudden apology, he nodded his head in acceptance. Truth be told, in his clan, the strong never apologize to the weak, and having Hinata, who seems to be significantly stronger than him, give him a sincere-sounding apology was rather refreshing. At first, he thought that he would be the leader of this genin team, but after witnessing the real Hinata he didn't mind yielding that position to her. This, naturally, was noticed by Kurinai as well. As a jonin, she was aware of how important it was to have a good dynamic between the members of a team. Just one person stepping out of line could lead to a disaster. At first, She thought that Kiba's insistence to being the alpha of the team could lead to some trouble, but Hinata not only subdued him but was also capable of apologizing and acknowledging her own mistakes, showed that she had what it took to be a good leader. Alright everyone, let us continue the introductions and then let us get to the important stuff, the true test to becoming a genin. Although Kiba started complaining after that sentence, while Shino clearly wasn't happy either that there was another test, Hinata stayed calm and collected. Kurinai couldn't help but be happy about that reaction. To think Hinata would be an unpolished gem like that. After my training, she will easily enter the ranks of Jonin and make a name for herself. Kurinai, unfortunately, didn't notice that the so-called unpolished gem, that is Hinata, has been discovered by Yuna years ago. Polishing is no longer necessary. Hinata had already created the combat style that suits her best and managed to perfect it to a rather high degree. The only thing she lacked to compete with elite Jonin was their chakra level and combat experience, two things that could only be obtained over time. Chapter 53, Hinata vs. Kurinai. At 9 in the morning of the next day, Hinata's last test before becoming a genin began. Truth be told, it was a rather boring affair. Kurinai hid herself inside a nearby forest, while Hinata, Shino, and Kiba had to track her down. Unlike Kakashi's test, there were no hidden conditions and no tricks to make the team fight each other, so the trio passed easily. The truly interesting part, however, happened after they passed the test. You were holding back, weren't you, Hinata? This question was asked by Kurinai, who noticed that Hinata clearly wasn't giving it her all while chasing Kurinai down. Indeed. We were supposed to work together as a team. It wouldn't make sense for me to go all out. Kiba, naturally, was outraged by this. What? Are you looking down on us? Do you think we are too weak to fight together with you? Hinata could only smile wryly while lifting her hands in a disarming manner. Please calm down, Kiba. This wasn't meant as an insult. I went through a lot of harsh training to reach my current strength. I didn't want to say that you two are weak, but that I am rather abnormal. Before Kiba could argue some more, Kurinai intervened. How about we put that to the test? Let's have a little sparring match, Hinata. You against me. Like this, you can go all out without worrying about hurting someone. Hinata pondered for a while and then nodded in agreement. Sure, why not? So far Yuna is the only one I ever fought seriously, so this might be interesting. Kurinai felt that something was off about that sentence, but due to her own ignorance, she decided not to bother. Kiba, could you start our little match? Then we will see if what Hinata said was actually true or not. Kurinai, naturally, already knew that Hinata was much stronger than a normal academy graduate. Her two teammates need to be made aware of that, as well. That is why she decided to have this little sparring match. She would fight Hinata for a while to show off her strength instead of defeating her instantly. That should probably make those two realize the difference and might even result in them putting more effort into training from now on. Although Kiba wasn't happy about being on the sidelines, he begrudgingly accepted his sensei's suggestion. He walked between the two fighters, lifted his hand, and then slashed it downwards. Begin. The moment the battle started, Hinata's face twisted into an aggressive smile, while her battle intent crashed into Kurinai. Before Kurinai could fully understand what was going on, the sword in Hinata's hand that seems to have come out of nowhere was already about to pierce through Kurinai's shoulder. Kurinai's eyes widened in shock. She quickly circulated chakra through her body and moved her shoulder backward, barely avoiding the first blow. Hinata, however, was far from done. Her left hand, which wasn't holding her sword, shot forwards as well. Her index finger was straight and blue chakra was glowing at its tip, while the other fingers were balled into a fist. The finger was aiming straight at Kurinai's neck, and if it hit, it would be a fatal strike, no questions asked. Kurinai's eyes bulged when she saw Hinata actually aiming for the kill. She already was in an awkward position from the last dodge, but still somehow managed to dodge the second one by jumping backward. She was just about to yell at Hinata for attacking this seriously when her eyes widened yet again. Kurinai didn't see every hand seal Hinata did, but considering she was taking a deep breath and was about to blow it towards her direction, it was rather obvious she was using ninjutsu. Water style, raging waves. A torrent of water was shot towards Kurinai. Although this wasn't as dangerous as the last two attacks, Kurinai would rather not be hit by it either. She put some chakra into the soles of her feet and jumped up while doing half a spin. The soles of her feet stuck to one of the tree branches above her, while Hinata's jutsu passed through underneath Kurinai harmlessly. Kurinai thought she could finally take a breath and analyze the situation, but with a flick of Hinata's sleeve, a volley of senbons was shot at Kurinai, forcing her to dodge, yet again. What is wrong with her? She is absolutely relentless. Kurinai went through some hand signs in an attempt to stop Hinata with a genjutsu, but just a split second after she was hit, she had already released herself from the genjutsu. Isn't she supposed to be a genin fresh out of the academy? How can she spot and dispel my genjutsu this easily? If I had the time to create something stronger, I could probably stop her, but her relentless attacks prevent me from amassing the necessary amount of chakra to do so. Kurinai had to, yet again, dodge Hinata's sword. This time, instead of going for one lethal strike, Hinata chained her attacks together into a dangerous combination of broadly spread sword strikes and pinpoint precision finger attacks. After Kurinai managed to get away from her, Hinata, for the first time in this fight, didn't continue her attack. With a happy smile on her face, she started speaking. Yuna was right. Fighting different strong opponents really is fun. The way you react to my attacks is totally different from how Yuna would react. It is really hard to chain my attacks together properly when I can't predict your movements. Kurinai, understandably, almost spat out blood when she heard that. Hard to chain your attacks properly? You have spent the last 5 minutes relentlessly chasing me around the training ground without even giving me the time to properly gather my thoughts, and yet you claim you weren't chaining your attacks properly? No. Calm down, Kurinai. There are more important questions to ask, now that you finally have the chance to speak. Hinata, it seems like most of your attacks were either lethal or at least could cripple your enemies. Why did you use attacks this dangerous in a simple sparring match? Hinata, however, only tilted her head in confusion. Kurinai-sensei, you told me to go all out without worrying about hurting you, so I would naturally fight you in the most efficient way I know. The most efficient way to defeat someone is, obviously, to just kill him as soon as possible. That is what Yuna taught me. Kurinai made a mental note that she definitely should have a serious talk with Yuna before she could teach weirder things to Hinata. Kurinai was just about to stop the fight when Hinata clapped her hands together in front of her. A battle-thirsty smile appeared on her face and her chakra flared out. Anyway, Kurinai-sensei, how about we continue? I still haven't shown you the jutsu I personally created after all. Kurinai was, naturally, surprised that Hinata apparently created a jutsu on her own. After all, the creation of a new jutsu is usually something only an incredible genius could do. Yet again, Kurinai made the mistake of not thinking too much about Hinata's words and nodded in agreement. Hinata kneeled down and slammed both of her hands on the ground while closing her eyes. She hasn't mastered this jutsu enough to use it in actual combat, but since Kurinai agreed that she wanted to see it, Hinata naturally went for it. A few seconds later the ground started to shake as massive amounts of water started to ooze out of it. Water style, water spear domain. A few moments later, everything around Hinata in a radius of about 50 meters had around 10 centimeters deep pools of water almost everywhere. Kurinai was just about to ask what the use of such ninjutsu was when a massive amount of water moved and formed into dozens of spears that were pointing towards Kurinai from all directions. Right now, Kurinai really regretted suggesting this sparring match, but she was a newly appointed Jonin sensei, so she decided to at least keep her dignity and not stop the match right here. Yet another decision she would regret later on. Chapter 54, Hinata vs. Kurinai 2. Kurinai couldn't help but curse her own stupidly as she barely dodged another high-pressure jet of water that was shot at her. Damn it, I should have just stopped this match when I had the chance. Ha ha ha, this is so much fun, Kurinai-sensei. Hinata could feel another genjutsu slam into her mind and quickly dispelled it. Yuna had spent a lot of time training Hinata and Naruto against genjutsu, after all, being caught inside a genjutsu for a single second could be a death sentence. Feeling another one of her genjutsu being dispelled easily, Kurinai really wanted to curse, but another volley of water spears being hurled at her prevented her from doing so. She deflected a few with the kunai she was holding and dodged the remaining ones. While dodging, Kurinai pulled out a few shurikens and tossed them at Hinata in an attempt to break her concentration, but the moment the shuriken got close to Hinata, a wall of water formed in front of her and blocked the shuriken. If Kurinai had more time to think, she would probably be terrified about how versatile Hinata's jutsu was, but considering she had to constantly dodge around the battlefield, she really didn't have time to think about it too deeply. As a jonin, Kurinai had a lot of actual battle experience, so seeing through the weak point of Hinata's jutsu was rather easy. Hinata couldn't move while using it. The problem was actually abusing that weak point. Projectiles will simply get deflected by a wall of water. Kurinai's genjutsu doesn't seem to work on Hinata at all, and Kurinai didn't know any ninjutsu powerful enough to break through Hinata's water shields. Her next idea was to approach Hinata and attempt to entangle her in a taijutsu battle, but Kurinai quickly realized that the closer she got to Hinata, the more powerful and faster the water jets became. Kurinai felt her dignity as a sensei take somewhat of a dip when she decided that the best move for victory was to keep dodging Hinata's attacks while pressuring her with shuriken, but decided that this was still better than actually losing the fight. It took another 5 minutes for Hinata to finally run out of steam, and Kurinai couldn't help but sigh in relief. Her stamina was rather close to being depleted, while her chakra was rather close to that point, as well. Despite that, she still held her head high and pretended to be totally fine. She couldn't lose her dignity as a jonin after. As expected of a jonin, Kurinai-sensei still seems to be completely fine. Since you seem to be surprised by me going for a lethal attack, I toned it down, but it seems I should have just kept going for the vital points like I previously was, since you are fine despite me attacking you for so long. Oh well, I guess I will just have to give it my everything in the next sparring. Kurinai, understandably, almost coughed out blood when she heard that. Is this how I will die? Killed by my own student, because I pretended to have everything under control? No. I won't fall that easily. I am not a jonin for nothing. I will increase my training while thinking about strategies to counter Hinata. No matter what, I won't allow myself to lose to one of my students. While Kurinai reignited her passion for training and becoming stronger, Shino and Kiba looked at Hinata like she just grew a second head. The only Hinata they knew was the silent and meek Hinata inside the classroom. Although Hinata had already shown that this was just a facade, neither Kiba nor Shino expected it to be this extreme. Rather than a battle between a jonin and a freshly graduated genin, the whole fight seemed more like a battle to the death between experienced jonin to the two of them. It took a while for Kurinai to gather her thoughts, but when she did, she decided that it was time to separate. Alright, as I have already said, all of you passed the final test and are hereby officially promoted to genin. Although all three of you have the same rank, Hinata will be assigned as the leader of your 3-men cell for now. If you have any complaints about that, please state them now. Kiba and Shino, however, were only looking at Kurinai like she was making a joke. After witnessing that kind of fight, who would still dare to oppose that kind of arrangement? Good, it seems like everyone is fine with that arrangement. We will meet again tomorrow at 8 in the morning for you to receive your first official mission. Dismissed. As soon as Kurinai left, a rather awkward silence descended onto the 3 remaining people. Kiba and Shino had no idea how to talk to the real Hinata, while Hinata was contemplating on what to do with the rest of the day. A few seconds later, Hinata noticed how awkward Shino and Kiba looked and decided to do something about it. Well, since we are a team from now on, how about we grab something to eat together? There is a really good ramen booth near the market, my treat. Really? A ramen booth? How could something as simple as ramen be special? As soon as Kiba said those words, he felt the atmosphere shift. He had no idea what was going on, but he felt like he just created an enemy for life for himself, somehow. Hinata could only shake her head in disapproval. Kiba, you shouldn't say things like that out loud. There are people out there that have a lot of passion if it is about ramen. Naruto is one of those people, so I hope you don't say anything you will regret later on. Kiba, however, didn't seem to care about that at all. Isn't ramen just a bunch of noodles that gets dumped into soup? What is so special about that? This time, instead of just creating an enemy for himself, it felt more like he just created someone who literally couldn't exist while Kiba was still there. It felt like someone was created for the sole purpose of fighting against him. Hinata, meanwhile, couldn't help but flinch a little when Kiba said that ramen was just a bunch of noodles that gets dumped into a soup. She knew how important ramen was to Naruto, so she decided to never talk about what just happened ever again. Since Naruto would probably go on a rampage if that kind of sentence was revealed, it was better to never speak of it again. After a few more minutes of discussing how to proceed, it was finally decided that they would indeed have some ramen together to celebrate their graduation. Hinata could only shake her head with a wry smile when she noticed Kiba happily eating his ramen without any complaints. He should have agreed to my words. Those that bad-mouth ramen had, as far as I know, quite a few pranks played on them. Oh well, I guess it is finally time to graduate, to break free of the chains shackling me. To finally live freely. To finally be me. Chapter 55, Complaining to Hiruzen. Hiruzen was currently inside his office and was smoking his pipe. He wasn't sure why, but his instincts were telling him that something troubling would happen soon. He wasn't even done thinking what might have happened when two people intruded into his office. Kurinai through the door and Kakashi through the window. Sigh, I knew it. Hiruzen was just about to rebuke them for entering his office like that when the two started to speak simultaneously. Hokage-sama, am I being punished for something? Hiruzen had, naturally, no clue what they were talking about, but considering today was the day of the final genin test, he could make a good guess what this was about. He took another drag from his pipe and then asked the question he knew he would regret asking. Please calm down for now. You are not being punished. Can you explain the situation? What followed was an incomprehensible mess of two people telling their story at the same time, which was quickly stopped by Hiruzen. He motioned towards Kurinai to tell her story first. Although Hiruzen could make out the whole story properly this time, he felt like he didn't understand it at all. Hinata? As in the previous heiress of the Hyuga clan? That meek little girl? Did Kurinai accidentally pick up the wrong person as a student? There is no way a shy girl like that would attack her sensei with a sword in her hand and a smile on her face, right? Additionally, that jutsu Kurinai mentioned could reach a rank or even S rank if the flaws get ironed out. How can a fresh genin not only use it but even claim to have created it? How much of a monstrous genius is she? No, even more important, has everyone in the Hyuga clan been kicked by a donkey? Why would you kick someone this talented out of your clan? Do you want to make it fair for the other clans or something? Hiruzen, however, wasn't called the professor without a reason. He quickly understood the situation and came to a conclusion. The Hyuga clan doesn't train ninjutsu or kenjutsu. They didn't know about her talent at all. Then why did she reveal herself now? Obviously, because the Hyuga clan no longer has any claims on her. She is considered an adult now. Hiruzen almost started to chuckle in glee when he came to that conclusion. Hayashi, that idiot actually let go of such a genius. Won't he cough out blood and anger when he hears about that? Kurinai, meanwhile, was a little bit weirded out by Hiruzen. What is he doing? Has he finally gone senile? Why is his face constantly changing expressions? He does know I am still here, right? Kurinai quickly glanced at Kakashi, who was still standing beside her, and noticed that he was currently giving Hiruzen a questioning look as well. It took a while for Hiruzen to notice the awkward mood, but when he did, he quickly started talking again to dispel it. Seems like Hinata hid rather well. I guess she didn't want to be claimed by the Hyuga clan, so she pretended to be weak all these years. Isn't it fine? Having a student this powerful will probably bring you quite a bit of fame in the future. Kurinai wanted to curse Hiruzen but wasn't sure how to formulate it without admitting her own weakness. As things were, she certainly would become rather well known in the future. She would be known as the teacher that got accidentally killed by her student. Hinata's words just after landing the killing blow would probably be something like, "Damn, I thought you could dodge that for sure." All Kurinai could do was to grit her teeth and grow stronger. As long as she is stronger than Hinata, she won't get killed accidentally. Hiruzen quickly dismissed Kurinai, to hear Kakashi's report, who claimed that it is a secret matter. That was why Kurinai was dismissed before they spoke about it. This time, it was Kakashi's turn to report what he had experienced, and the more he said, the more lifeless Hiruzen's eyes became. After finishing his report, Hiruzen just sat there with lifeless eyes, contemplating what kind of sin he had committed to be punished with this kind of fate. Having a super genius within a generation is great for every hidden village. There might be some assassins trying to prevent the genius from growing too powerful, but people won't wage war because of it. If that genius manages to grow long enough to become a deterrent for other villages, it naturally will give the village a lot of benefits. But the current situation is completely different. 3 people that could be considered as supreme geniuses. Hinata with her water style, Yuna, who can apparently even overwhelm Kakashi with technique alone, and Naruto, who can apparently not only control the Kyuubi's chakra to some degree but seems to be a high-level sealing master as well. On top of all of that, Yuna and Naruto are the children of the 4th Hokage, a man feared by every other nation. If information of these 3 gets out, there will probably be more assassins than civilians inside Konoha. Won't those 3 die by suffocation simply because there are too many assassins piled on top of them? The atmosphere in the room grew somber, while Hiruzen's eyes turned serious as a bit of his chakra leaked out, causing the room to tremble. Even the usually lazy Kakashi straightened his back and awaited Hiruzen's next words. Hiruzen might be rather casual when speaking normally, but that doesn't mean he has lost the respect of the shinobi under him when he is serious. This is an SS rank secret. No one is allowed to know about it. Sooner or later, those 3 will be exposed, but we will keep it a secret for as long as we can. Catch up to Kurinai and explain the situation to her while revealing as little information as possible. Tell Kurinai to talk about this with her genin as well. You will do the same with your own and Yuna. The longer we keep this a secret, the longer those 3 will have time to grow, and the easier it will be for us when they are finally revealed. Yes, Hokage-sama. What is wrong, Kakashi? It seems like you have more to say. Yes. This is just a gut feeling, but something feels off. Off? What do you mean? Well, it is like this. If you were to rank those 3 by talent, who would you put in what place? Hiruzen didn't have to think about that too long and immediately gave his answer. Naruto is, obviously, in the first place. A high-ranking seal's mastery and control over Kyuubi's chakra easily puts him in the first place. Hinata is definitely second place. Her affinity for water release might even surpass the second Hokage, after all. This would put Yuna in third place. Although a high mastery in taijutsu is great, it is simply not comparable to the other 2. Kakashi nodded his head in agreement. After all, he thought the same at first, but if you rank them like this, then why is Yuna the only one who won? Pardon? Between the 3 of them, she is the only one who actually won. Naruto was close to getting the bell a few times, yet he didn't. Hinata was close to defeating Kurinai a few times, yet she didn't. Yuna on the other hand did not only get a bell from me, she did it pretty much without breaking a sweat. Hiruzen pondered that for a moment and then nodded his head. Indeed, I never thought about it like this, but I don't think we have to. Surprisingly, Kakashi interrupted Hiruzen's speech before he could finish. Hokage-sama, Yuna's presence is making me nervous. I can't get a read on her at all. Her body language is constantly changing. When I speak to others, I look for signs of whether the other party is lying or saying the truth on instinct, yet when I talk with her, she shows signs of both whenever she says something. And, worst of all is, without a doubt, her eyes. Whenever I cross eyes with her, I feel like all lies will be exposed in front of them. I am not saying that she is Konoha's enemy, I am only saying that my instincts are screaming at me to be careful every time I stand in front of her. Although Hiruzen had no idea how Kakashi came to that kind of conclusion, Hiruzen still nodded in agreement. As one of Konoha's strongest shinobi, Kakashi's words, naturally, held a lot of weight. Maybe it is finally time for me to meet her properly. Should I visit them at their flat? I am sure they will be surprised when the Hokage himself appears in front of their doorstep. Hiruzen couldn't help but smile with mischief after dismissing Kakashi. Hehe, I am looking forward to seeing their surprised faces. Chapter 56, The First Mission. The next day, Team 7 and Yuna had their first mission. Yuna could be seen, crouched down in a huge vegetable field and pulling out some weeds with a serene smile on her face. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura were, naturally, there as well, but all three of them seemed to be pretty annoyed. "Nei-san, why do you look so happy? Isn't this really boring?" "Hitch. Not really. I actually enjoy garden work, you know." This earned her weird looks from everyone present. Even Kakashi looked like Yuna had just grown a second head. Yuna, actually, had a bit of a green thumb in her previous life. She was pretty horrendous in alchemy but could grow herbs rather reliably and grew to enjoy gardening. It took another 2 hours for their first mission to finally be over. After reporting the completion of the mission to Hiruzen, they walked out of the Hokage office and to their respective homes. While Kakashi left immediately, the 4 remaining genins walked together a while longer. Yuna looked at Team 7 and immediately noticed that there was pretty much no communication at all. Should I help them out? On one hand, Naruto will probably leave this team rather soon. On the other hand, bonding with a few more people his age might be good for Naruto. Yuna glanced at the brooding Sasuke and Sakura, who was still fawning over him, and only shook her head. Bonding with people his age is good, but I would prefer if he became friends with more stable people. What about Chuji? Except for his eating habits, he is a pretty normal person. While Yuna was contemplating whether to set up a playdate for Naruto or not, Sakura broke the silence. Why do I feel like a lot of people are glaring at us? At this point in time, not just Yuna, but even Naruto was completely ignoring the people staring at them, but for someone like Sakura, who had never experienced something like this, it was a rather unusual experience, even if those looks weren't directed at her directly. No need to worry about that, Sakura-chan. These people are just jealous of how handsome I am. Hearing Naruto's answer, Yuna could only scoff. Aren't they glaring at you for that bright orange jacket you are wearing? They are simply irritated by its brightness. Naruto, however, only returned the scoff. If we are talking about brightness, shouldn't we talk about your hair first? Crimson, red and blue aren't exactly subtle, are they? Oh, yeah. Then what about? Like that, the twins kept bickering until Sakura completely lost interest and walked away from the group after noticing that Sasuke had left as well. Truth be told, neither Yuna nor Naruto cared whether the secret about Kurama gets out or not, but they decided that, at least for a bit longer, they would keep it hidden. The fewer people that know about it the better after all. Although technically, pretty much the whole village knows about it. Very few people actually know the reason why everyone keeps calling the 2 demon twins. If someone were to look deeper into it, it would be rather easy to discover the truth, but no village had time to have their spies investigate 2 random children whose results in the academy are pretty much at the bottom of the whole class. A few minutes later, Hinata caught up to them with a happy smile on her face. After becoming a genin, she no longer bothers to keep up her mask in public and just acts like she usually would when the trio is at home. Good afternoon, how was your first mission? Yuna only shrugged her shoulders, indicating that it was fine, while Naruto had a wry smile on his face. He looked at the clothes Hinata was currently wearing and could see paint all over them, showing that Hinata's first mission was rather similar in nature to their own. Pretty boring, we spent a few hours pulling out weeds and that was it. Hinata nodded her head in understanding and then told the twins about her own mission. I spent half a day painting a wall, so I didn't see much action either. Yuna decided to say a few things as well. I actually did some research about how the mission system works, and it appears that the D-rank missions we are currently doing are only available during times of peace. During wartime, the D-rank missions are usually something like supply runs and actually have a chance for combat instead of the simple chores we are doing. The only chance to actually see some action is if you can coax a C-rank mission out, somehow. Naruto's eyes sparkled with determination when he heard that. He had, just now, decided that he will definitely coax a C-rank mission out of Hiruzen. Yuna could only shake her head at that. In her opinion, there was no way a bunch of fresh graduates could get a C-rank mission no matter how strong they seemed to be. After all, if you give one team preferential treatment, the other teams will come asking for the same treatment. It will probably take a few months for them to get anything worthwhile for a mission. Truth be told, Yuna doesn't mind that. These so-called missions were still more interesting than the absolute boredom that was the Shinobi Academy after all. Whether it is pulling out weeds or painting walls, she doesn't mind a bit of manual labor. Yuna was the first one to resume speaking. Well, Hinata, what did you think about your new teammates? Hinata pondered for a while and then gave her answer. They are fine, I guess, but they are rather weak. I think I could only get a chance to work together with them if I hold back a lot. I am not really sure what to do about it. Yuna shrugged her shoulders at that. Just do what you want to do. If you want them to get stronger, then match their strength in dangerous situations so they gain combat experience. If you don't care about them, then just power through everything. As I said, I will no longer babysit you. Make your own decisions and do what you consider to be the right answer. The same is, naturally, true for Naruto as well. If you don't want to work together with these two, then don't. Just be acknowledged for your strength and you should be able to get a promotion rather quickly without bothering about those two too much. Naruto and Hinata only nodded in acknowledgement when they heard Yuna's explanation. Both of them weren't entirely sure what to do with their teams yet, so they had to put some thought into it. After arriving home, Yuna and Hinata made their way to the kitchen to cook dinner while Naruto was left in the living room to do some light chakra exercise. Just when he was about to start, someone knocked on the door, surprising Naruto a little. The only people that would occasionally visit them were Ino and Araka, and both of them certainly wouldn't come this late. Naruto walked towards the door and opened it, revealing Hiruzen, dressed in common clothes and with a mischievous smile on his face. Naruto, however, only scanned his face for a moment and then turned towards the kitchen. "Ne-san. Old man Hokage is here, just like you said. Okay, just lead him to the dinner table." Hiruzen almost face-planted into the ground when he heard that Yuna, somehow, expected him to come here. But he wouldn't lose his dignity this easily. Although the smile on his face was a little strained, he still followed Naruto to the dining table and sat down. He spent a few minutes idly chatting with Naruto before Yuna and Hinata served dinner. "I'm sure you have a lot of questions, but let us eat before I answer any of them. Can't have a serious conversation on an empty stomach after all." Although Hiruzen noticed that Yuna's tone was rather casual, he couldn't help but feel like something was really off about the whole situation. Was it a mistake to come here? That's the end of this tale for now. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in part 4. Peace.